Chapter 3065. For hours later, Lu Li decided to leave at once, regardless of whether he could take down Emperor Yang's halberd or not. He told Blood Fairy to check, and only check the platform where Emperor Yang's halberd was. He did not have the time to take the other two items. Blood Fairy went to check as soon as she could. Lu Li waited quietly. At the same time, he consumed the elixirs to restore his body to its peak state. Before, his body was not fully recovered. Blood Fairy went to check as fast as she could. Lu Li waited anxiously. Soon, 2 hours passed. Still, there was no message from Blood Fairy. Another hour passed by. Lu Li was getting more and more anxious. There were only 2 hours left. If he were to be stopped halfway, there would be no way out for him to go to heaven or hell. Another half an hour later, Blood Fairy finally sent back a message. Master, I've scouted the platform. It's very dangerous. There are a total of 4 divine glyphs. One is a gravity glyph, another is a killing glyph, and the last one is a soul attack glyph. The last one is an unknown one. I cannot find out the specific function. I suggest you don't go. You might be trapped by the pattern of gravity, even if you take the holy mountain. Lu Li said nothing. Blood Fairy's advice was objective. That being said, Lu Li's desire was strong. He looked up at the platform and made up his mind. Either way, I have to try. If I don't try, I will not be able to accept this. Blood Fairy, get ready to crack the formation. Lu Li said, if I am trapped, find a way to crack the pattern of gravity. The platform of Emperor Yang's halberd was not far away from the teleportation altar. As long as the pattern of gravity could be cracked, Lu Li could reach the teleportation altar in an instant. Okay, Blood Fairy would not have any doubts about Lu Li's decision. She snuck into the platform and began to figure out a way to crack the pattern of gravity. Lu Li went into the holy mountain. Without any hesitation, he flew the holy mountain toward the platform. At the bottom of the platform, Lu Li slowed down. He flew the holy mountain to the first stair. At that moment, the entire platform lit up. Then, a surge of horrifying energy spread out. An invisible force came down. The holy mountain was pressed down and fell onto the stairs. Impressive. Lu Li controlled the holy mountain to fly, but it could not move at all. The Saint Mountain was a place that not even a Saint Emperor's attack could push back. Now, it was suppressed to the point where it couldn't move. One could only imagine how powerful this power was. There's no other way. Lu Li had to teleport out and put away the holy mountain. Before he could do anything, a force of gravity pressed down on him. His legs went soft, and then he fell flat on his face. His whole body was stuck to the ground, and he was prostrating. This power, Lu Li was taken aback. This was only the first stair. There were 18 more. How horrifying would it be? Not only that, there were other powerful attack-type divine imprints on it. Was he sure he could block them? Let's risk it. Lu Li bellowed. He released the dragon transformation and dragon transformation. His body grew stronger. He growled and climbed up slowly against the strong gravity. Sure, Lu Li raised his head and looked up at the stairs. He climbed up on all fours. The gravity on the second stair was a bit stronger, but not by much. Lu Li was overjoyed. He had the purple divine liquid. After he consumed it, his body would be strengthened. Maybe he could stand the gravity. Moo! Lu Li shouted and rushed towards the third stone stair. The gravity on the third stair was stronger. Even though Lu Li could stand it, his muscles were trembling and he was sweating profusely. The fourth stair, the fifth. Lu Li's hands and feet trembled. Once again, he lay on the ground, gasping for air. He was exhausted. He took out a pellet and rested for a moment before he resumed his climb. Buzzing. When he reached the sixth stair, the divine imprints on the platform glowed. Chi in heaven and earth gathered on the platform and transformed into swords that were shot at Lu Li. Such a powerful attack. Lu Li sensed it and was taken aback. He released his Dharma form at once, and at the same time, he took out his divine chains of order. The Dharma form and the swords collided and cracked. The divine chains of order, on the other hand, knocked away more than a dozen swords. The other swords actually moved in an arc and quickly struck Lu Li's shield of origin power. Boom! The shield of origin energy was shattered at once. Then the swords made of origin energy landed on Luli. Many scales on Luli's body were crushed. Seeing that there were more swords coming at him, Luli made up his mind and rolled down the stairs. On the 5th stair, the divine imprints disappeared. Luli reacted quickly, so he didn't suffer serious injuries. He only lost more than a dozen scales. What should I do? Luli took a pellet and began to think. The door was about to be opened. He still had a chance to leave now. If he waited for AOU and the others to come in, it would be difficult for him to leave. Let's try again. Luli made up his mind and yelled. He continued to climb up. This time, he risked his life. As soon as he got up, he rolled over. Then, regardless of the attacks coming at him, he climbed up quickly. Boom, 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 boom. Luli was hit by dozens of attacks. Many scales were broken. There were several sieves on his body, and he was bleeding. Fortunately, the 7th stair was not dangerous. That being said, the gravity was stronger. Luli lay on his stomach, motionless like a dead dog. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Luli took out a pellet and closed his eyes to heal again. He felt bitter. It seemed that he could not get the halberd of Emperor Yong. He was only at the 7th stair. There were 11 more to go. Who knew what was up there? Let's go, let's go. Luli decided to leave after some thoughts. The halberd of Emperor Yong was a treasure, but it did not belong to him. Or he could not get it. Emperor Yong must have thought about it. How could he give his halberd to a warrior of the divine realm? Let's go. Luli took a moment to heal his wounds. He rolled down quickly. This time, he was fast, but he was hit by more than a dozen attacks. He had no time to rest. He rolled all the way down the stair. After consuming 3 pellets, Luli climbed up and walked toward the teleportation formation. At the same time, he said to Blood Fairy, "Blood Fairy, don't break the formation. Come on, let's get out of here." Blood Fairy dashed over in a blur toward the teleportation altar. Luli entered the teleportation altar as well. He looked at the gate in the distance and then at the halberd of Emperor Yong on the platform. He made up his mind and said, "Open the altar. Let's go." What? A moment later, the teleportation altar did not glow as he had expected. He looked down in surprise. Blood Fairy said, "Master, this is bad. I have been careless. The altar is sealed by a hidden pattern. To open it, we must crack the pattern first. It will take at least 4 to 6 hours." Oh no, Luli was taken aback. It had been a long time. The gate was about to be opened, and AOU and the others would come in. How could Blood Fairy make such a mistake at this critical moment? Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3066. Actually, Blood Fairy couldn't be blamed for this. She had been in a rush and hadn't had the time to examine the divine inscriptions. The divine inscriptions were hidden, and she hadn't noticed them until she had opened them. She hadn't discovered the divine inscriptions. Blood Fairy said that she could only hold on for 6 hours, but it had been more than 4 hours. The seal would take 4 to 6 hours to open. Luli could not make it in time. Luli forced himself to calm down. He realized that there were only 2 options. 1, he could let the sacred mountain cover the altar and let Blood Fairy crack the seal. In that case, he would have to rely on the sacred mountain to hold on for 4 to 6 hours. If the sacred mountain was not blasted open during that time, he would have a chance to escape. Just because he had a chance to escape did not mean that he would be completely safe. His enemies would be teleported out as well, and they would continue to hunt him down. The other option was to take the corridor. Clearly, the corridor was an exit as well, but he did not know where it led to or what dangers awaited him. Theoretically speaking, this was where the tomb owner's body was. This should be the deepest part of the tomb. Why was there a corridor? What was it leading to? Could it be that there was a tomb inside? Luli asked, "Blood Fairy, are there any divine patterns in this corridor? Where does it lead to?" "There are no divine patterns in this corridor." Blood Fairy answered, "I don't know. I don't have time to find out. Go and have a look now." Luli waved his hand. Maybe this corridor was a way out. What if there was an altar inside? Luli did not think about treasures. The most powerful ones were here. Also, the 3 most powerful ones were here. When his pursuers arrived, they would come for the treasures, and they would not have time to worry about him. Could he run away from the corridor? Blood Fairy hurried into the corridor and returned after the time it took for an incense stick to burn. She transmitted her voice back. Master, this corridor is very long, and there are divine inscriptions all over it. However, it's an illusory realm, and it's very powerful. Illusion? Luli was surprised. It was strange enough that there was a corridor here. How could there be illusions in the corridor? This made him very bewildered. He had been to many tombs, such as the tomb of the Dragon King, the tomb of the Moon God, and the tomb of Emperor Cohen. According to common sense, the main hall where the tomb owner resided was the core area. The core region usually didn't have any passageways because the most important treasures were all here. If there was a door, it would be the exit. But here, there was a corridor, and there was an illusion in the corridor. This was too strange. Go! Luli was not an indecisive man. He did not have much confidence in waiting here and relying on the defense of the Holy Mountain. Aou was strong, and Aochi was proficient in divine glyphs, even stronger than Blood Fairy. If he could crack the Sacred Mountain's runes, then Luli would be squashed to death like an ant. There were 3 treasures here, and they were all precious treasures. When the pursuers caught up to him, they would definitely think of taking the treasures first and not think of chasing him in the corridor. Xiao! The Sacred Mountain flew into the corridor in a blur. After more than 1,000 feet, Luli noticed there was a thick black haze. The Sacred Mountain was swallowed up by the black haze as soon as it flew in. In a time for 3 incense sticks to burn after Luli went into the black haze, the door of the hall was opened quietly. 3 people rushed in. Aou took the lead, Goen followed closely behind, and Aochi brought up the rear. As soon as the 3 came in, they looked for Luli. When they did not see him, they were attracted by the coffin and then the halberd of Emperor Yong. Well, the 3 powerful warriors' eyes were filled with excitement. At this moment, they had forgotten about Luli and everything else. They were all staring at the halberd of Emperor Yong like hungry wolves staring at a lamb. Aou wanted to rush to the platform and take the halberd of Emperor Yong, but he stopped himself. He saw the bloodstains on the stairs and the scales that fell off. What? Aou followed the trail of blood and noticed it was dripping toward the teleportation altar. Aou shouted, "That punk tried to take the halberd of Emperor Yong. Did he teleport away when he failed?" Aochi took a look and nodded. "That is possible. Patriarch Aou, should we go after him? Cauldron Emperor will not be happy if he escapes." Aochi's intention was clear. He wanted Aou to go after Luli, and then he would find a way to get the halberd of Emperor Yong. Cauldron Emperor only told him to cooperate with Aou to take down Luli. Now that Luli had left the tomb of Emperor Yong, Aochi didn't want to do anything. Aochi was skilled in divine inscriptions, but he was not as strong as Aou. Naturally, he was tempted by the halberd of Emperor Yong. Yes, Goen added, "Patriarch Aou, that punk just got away and he is injured. If we go after him now, we can take him down easily. You go after him and I will check the platform." Whoosh! With that said, Goen rushed toward the platform where the halberd of Emperor Yong was. He was here to help. Even though Luli had killed some of the Heaven Hound race, it was not a big deal. Compared to the halberd of Emperor Yong, it was not enough. A glint of coldness rose in Aou's eyes. He almost killed Goen. As far as Aou was concerned, the halberd of Emperor Yong was his. Now, Goen was snatching food from the tiger's mouth. How could he not be angry? He was about to rush over and take the halberd of Emperor Yong when Aochi said, "Patriarch Aou, don't worry. He cannot get up there. I found some powerful divine inscriptions on the platform. I don't think he can get up there." "What if he gets up there?" Aou asked. "What if he gets the halberd of Emperor Yong? We cannot take the risk." "Kill him if we get him." Aochi snorted. "We can kill Goen here without anyone knowing. The Heaven Hound race has no proof. What else can they say? What is more, we can frame him for taking the halberd of Emperor Yong from us." "Okay." Aou nodded and said, "Aochi, go after that human bastard. I must get the halberd of Emperor Yong. If I go after him, you cannot get the halberd of Emperor Yong." Aochi shook his head. There are at least 4 divine inscriptions on the platform. Emperor Yong will not let anyone get his relic weapon easily. Only those divine inscriptions can get up there. The divine inscriptions here must have affected the entire graveyard. I don't think you can do it. Ao Chi's reason was fair and just. Ao, you could not argue with him. He was worried as well. What if he could not get the halberd? At the moment, Ao Yu and Ao Chi's attention was on the halberd of Emperor Yong. Neither of them had time to think about Lu Li. If Lu Li could not get the halberd, the Cauldron Emperor would be furious. But so what? The Cauldron Emperor would not kill them. If they didn't go after Lu Li, they would be fine. At worst, they would be scolded. But what about getting the halberd of Emperor Yong? That would increase their strength, especially for AOU. If he could get the halberd of Emperor Yong, he would be among the top 10 of the Red Dragon race. By then, he would gain fame in the entire Barren universe, and all kinds of benefits would come to him. Then let's wait. AOE made up his mind. If Gohan can get the halberd of Emperor Yong, we will kill him together. If not, we will work together to get the halberd of Emperor Yong. You can name your terms. I only want the halberd of Emperor Yong. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3067. Buzzing from the hall with many stone pillars, a group of people rushed out. At the front was Lady Li. Lady Li and the others ran all the way here. They didn't have to solve the sacred glyphs along the way, and there were so many powerful warriors. Therefore, they arrived here easily. But in the maze, many powerful warriors were scattered. Only a dozen or so Saint Emperors had come in. Lady Li was the reason why they could solve the maze. She had a treasure given to her by Ancestor Fu. With this treasure, she found the way in. There was a fight here. A Saint Emperor came in, looked around, and said, "A powerful warrior died there." Lady Li and the others nodded. A Saint Emperor died, and he died miserably. Be careful, it is dangerous here. The powerful warriors grew solemn. Saint Emperors were hard to kill, not to mention that AOU was a famous one. How could a Saint Emperor be killed when AOU was here? He died miserably. The powerful warriors had to pay more attention. Let me have a look. The diamond mark between Lady Li's eyebrows glowed. Many images appeared in her eyes. Soon, her eyes were filled with shock, and she murmured in disbelief. It was actually the human brat who killed Ao Yun. How is that possible? Many powerful warriors shouted. Lu Li was only at the Emperor realm. For them, he was a nonentity. Lady Li was telling them that a nonentity killed a dragon? How could they believe this? Let's go, but we must go through one by one. Lady Li waved her hand. I can feel their energy. They just left not long ago. They might be in 1 or 2 halls up ahead. Remember, we can only go through one by one. If there are too many of us, the power of the sacred glyphs will be doubled. Whoosh! Miss Li took the lead. Her battle prowess might not be particularly strong, but she definitely had the most treasures on her. This was because she was a junior that Ancestor Fu was extremely fond of and highly regarded. Naturally, he would not allow anything to happen to her. Boom, 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 boom. Misty charged forward in a very violent manner. A fiery red battle armor appeared on her body. This battle armor was personally refined by Fu Zhu. It was also engraved with several powerful defensive, nomological true meanings. This greatly increased the defensive power of the battle armor. In one breath, Miss Li rushed through 7 or 8 levels, but she was not injured at all. However, she was injured at the back. When she rushed through, there was only a little blood at the corner of her mouth. Her defense was terrifyingly strong. Xiao, 2 mighty figures from the desolate race, charged over from behind. The 2 of them were injured, and they were in a worse state than Miss Li. Miss Li was not in a hurry to enter the gate. Instead, she waited for the experts behind her to pass through one by one. The dozen or so experts were all very strong. Only 2 of them could not withstand it and retreated. Let's not wait for them. Let's go. Miss Li took the lead and walked towards the door. The door was closed, but it opened with a gentle push from Miss Li. There wasn't enough time to reactivate the divine runes inside, so Miss Li and the others easily entered. Inside, Aou and Aochi were still standing below the platform. They were waiting for Go and to take Emperor Yang's halberd or retreat. At this moment, Goen had only climbed 14 stone steps. The three experts noticed a powerful aura behind them. They immediately turned their heads and saw more than a dozen Saint Emperors. Their expressions changed drastically. Desolate race? Miss Li. Especially after seeing Miss Li, Aou's expression turned even more unnatural. Miss Li and the two Saint Emperors were not considered strong, but they were from the Desolate race, especially with Miss Li's esteemed status. If anyone dared to kill her, the Desolate race would definitely be enraged. The Scarlet Dragon race might even be destroyed. Emperor Yang's halberd. The Saint Emperors that came in did not look at Aou and company. Their eyes were all attracted by Emperor Yang's halberd. Other than Miss Li, all the Saint Emperor's eyes were burning. This was one of the strongest sacred weapons in the world. Aou's eyes darted around a few times. When he saw the burning gazes of the Saint Emperors, his heart stirred. He immediately transmitted his voice to Aochi and Goen. Let's retreat. Don't fight for Emperor Yang's halberd, or we will become a target. Let's retreat to the side. We're not fighting. Aochi was somewhat reluctant. He transmitted back. This group of Saint Emperors are not considered strong. If we go all out, we still have a chance. No chance. Aou shook his head and transmitted back. With the three Desolate race Saint Emperors here, unless we dare to kill them, we have no chance. It's not that we are not fighting, but we should wait and see. Let those Saint Emperors fight for a while. Understood. Aochi immediately understood. Those Saint Emperors were not from the same race. Although they were all from the Yin-Yang world, they were not on good terms. Let them fight each other for a while, then they could fish in troubled waters. Aou led Aochi to the side, but Goen was reluctant. He had already come so far, so how could he retreat? As long as he obtained Emperor Yang's halberd, he could think of a way to escape. Aou and Aochi's retreat was seen by Miss Li. The other Saint Emperors also came to their senses. One of the Saint Emperors immediately shouted, Aou, go, and what is the meaning of this? This is the Yin-Yang world. You have openly violated the agreement and entered. Are you treating the Desolate race and us as nothing? Emperor Yang's tomb is in the Yin-Yang world, so the treasures here belong to us. If you dare snatch it, you will be making an enemy out of all our races. This Saint Emperor was very good with his words, dragging the Desolate race into this. Later on, he said that the treasures here belonged to the races of the Yin-Yang world, implying that the Desolate race could not fight for it. His words implied that he wanted Emperor Yang's halberd. Haha. Aou smiled lightly. Yin-Yu, we are not here to snatch the treasures, but to kill an enemy. This Emperor Yang's halberd is yours. My Scarlet Dragon race will definitely not snatch any of the treasures inside. After this matter is over, my race will give you a satisfactory explanation. Aou is also a very smart person. He reduced the matter to a small one, indicating that he would not be fighting for Emperor Yang's halberd. Goen, aren't you coming down? A group of Saint Emperors looked at Goen because he was still climbing up. Goen completely ignored them as he climbed up with all his might. The Saint Emperor was immediately enraged. He cupped his hands at Miss Li and said, Miss Li, you can see it for yourself. We are not trying to stir up trouble, but Goen is going too far. If he does not stop, we will have no choice but to take action. Miss Li's face turned gloomy. She was here representing the Desolate race. Now, that Goen was treating her like nothing, it was equivalent to looking down on the Desolate race. How could she have a good expression? She paused for a moment as a token appeared in her hand. On it was written a large, desolate word. Her pleasant voice sounded, Elder Goen, I am here representing the Desolate race. Please retreat immediately, or else I will not be able to stop them. When that happens, your Tiango race will also be implicated. Ha ha ha! Goen desperately climbed up another 2 stone steps. He was now at the 16th stone step. Just as he was about to reach the top, how could he give up? He laughed loudly and turned his head to say, I, Goen, have long been expelled from the Tiango race. I have nothing to do with the Tiango race now. Since I am not from the Tiango race, why can't I enter the yin-yang world? The saint weapon has a spirit, and only the virtuous can use it. If you want to snatch it, just say it. Why do you have to pretend? Courting death. One of the saint emperors could no longer hold it in as he charged up the stage. The other saint emperors naturally did not want to be outdone. They also charged up and released all sorts of attacks at Go, and before they even got close. Sigh, Miss Li sighed softly. She did not stop them or say a word. Goen was already so shameless to say that he was no longer from the Tiango race. What else did she have to say? Since Goen was courting death, she could not be blamed. She had already taken out her seal stone and recorded what had happened. Even if the Tiango race created a ruckus after this, the Tiango race would not be able to say anything if she took out the seal stone. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Master's mobile version. Chapter 3068. The attacks of the Saint Emperors slammed into the platform, causing Goen's countenance to drastically change. Just as he was about to defend and evade, the platform suddenly lit up with a bright light as a barrier of light enveloped the entire platform. Boom, 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 boom. Over a dozen powerful attacks slammed into the divine inscription, causing it to tremble violently. The entire hall lit up, as though the entire hall was trembling. The divine inscription on the platform is connected to the grand formation of the entire graveyard. The expressions of the experts all changed. Although the barrier of light was trembling violently, it didn't show any signs of breaking. Since so many experts couldn't break it, it was impossible for them to kill Goen from below the platform. They could only go up and attack Goen. The problem was that Goen wasn't a weakling. At this moment, he couldn't even stand straight on the platform, and could only crawl like a dog. Their combat prowess wasn't much stronger than Goen, so they could only crawl. They were below the platform, while Goen was on top. They had no way to attack Goen, and by the time they were halfway up, Goen would have already seized the halberd. Go! One of the Saint Emperors roared as he took the lead to rush up. The moment he reached the first step, his body trembled and he almost knelt down. However, this Saint Emperor's combat prowess wasn't bad, and he managed to endure it with great difficulty. The other Saint Emperors immediately followed, and when two Saint Emperors stepped onto the first step, they were instantly immobilized by the immense gravitational force. One of the Saint Emperors exclaimed, "We have to go up one by one, not all at once. The power of the divine inscription will stack." Of the two Saint Emperors, one retreated, causing the gravitational force to lessen. The remaining Saint Emperors could only climb up one by one. A total of 6 Saint Emperors climbed up, while the remaining Saint Emperors split up to the other 2 platforms. As for the other 2 platforms, one was a beautiful battle armor. This was the famed Young Emperor's armor, a top-grade defensive divine artifact. The other ring was the Young Emperor's ring. This ring was a sole defensive divine artifact, and was the reason why Young Emperor was famous. The Young Emperor's halberd was the strongest, and also what all the Saint Emperors wanted. However, that platform could only be ascended one by one. So many Saint Emperors had already climbed up. What were the other Saint Emperors going for? To eat the dust? Aochi was a little anxious. With so many Saint Emperors going up, Sovereign Yang's halberd would definitely be taken down. At that time, things would become troublesome. The other 2 saint weapons were also very powerful, but they could only watch helplessly as others snatched them away. Don't panic. At this moment, Aoyu was very calm. He transmitted his voice. If the situation doesn't become chaotic, we won't have any chance. If we act recklessly, not only will something happen, we will also implicate the race. Let's wait and find the most suitable opportunity to make our move. Also, didn't you say that there were very strong divine imprints on it? They might not be able to take it, right? Let's see. Aoyu sighed. At this moment, the 2 powerful warriors paid no more attention to Lu Li. They had even forgotten about Lu Li. All they could focus on was the halberd of Sovereign Yang. Lu Li was still in the corridor, which was protected by a powerful formation of illusion. Lu Li flew the holy mountain forward, but he felt the corridor was endless. He could never reach the end. According to common sense, the corridor was straight and not big. Even if there was a strong illusion inside, as long as he flew forward, he would definitely reach the end. Because if he flew in any other direction, he would hit the wall. If he flew backward, he would be able to go back to the hall. The divine imprints in this corridor were miraculous. Even when Luli used the trace of Tao to sense, he still felt he was in a boundless void. There was nothing here, and it was frighteningly dark. Luli tried to fly to the left and right, but he did not hit the wall. He felt he was in a void. He had lost his sense of direction and was lost in the void. 2 hours later, Luli stopped. Behind the holy mountain, the speed had increased. At this speed, he must have flown for tens of millions of miles. He could not fly in a straight line. Blood Fairy, go and have a look. Luli stopped. It was pointless to go forward. He might as well let Blood Fairy solve the divine imprints. Otherwise, he did not know when he could get out of this place. Blood Fairy went to check. A moment later, she said, "Master, we are still in the corridor. We haven't gone far, only a mile. The formation of illusion here is miraculous." "It is miraculous." Luli nodded. It was miraculous. He had been flying the holy mountain in a straight line. He felt he had flown for at least tens of millions of miles. But now, he realized he had only flown for a mile. This did not make sense. Are there divine imprints of time and space here? Luli thought of a possibility. Unless there were such divine imprints, there was no other explanation. The holy mountain was dead. It would only carry out Luli's orders and fly forward in a straight line. The divine imprints here were too strong. Blood Fairy would need a long time to finish. There were no pursuers. Aou and the others must be trying to take down Emperor Yang's halberd. Therefore, Luli was not in a hurry. Luli sat under the miraculous tree and continued to study the art of concealment. If he could master the art of concealment, he would be fine even if the pursuers caught up. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Blood Fairy said, "Master, the divine imprints here are too complicated. I will need at least half a month." "All right, go ahead and investigate." Luli frowned. He had no other choice but to wait here. He could only hope that Aou and the others would not take down Emperor Yang's halberd so easily and that they could stall for some time. In the hall behind them, something strange was happening. When Goen reached the 17th level, he suddenly stopped moving because he sensed a fatal danger. He could go up one more level. If he could pass it safely, he would be able to go to the platform and get Emperor Yang's halberd. But Goen did not dare to move. He also noticed that there would be divine imprints at every 6 steps. The 6th, the 12th, and the 18th level were all under attack, and each one was more dangerous than the previous one. The Heavenly Hound were the best scouts. Naturally, they had a keen sense of danger. Goen had a feeling that if he were to go up, he would either die or be seriously injured. The 6 Saint Emperors were climbing up. The fastest one had reached the 13th level. Goen rolled his eyes. He was filled with killing intent. The Saint Emperors down there could not attack him, but he could attack the Saint Emperors down there. He had said that the Chu race was exiled by the Heavenly Hound. He had thrown caution to the wind. He had no more concerns. As long as he could get Emperor Yang's halberd, his abilities would soar. He could conceal his identity for a few years. When his abilities were greatly improved, he could return to the Heavenly Hound with glory. Goen did not move. He was resting to tend to his wounds. When the Saint Emperors behind him reached the 15th level, Goen turned around and said to them, "If you go any higher, don't blame me for being rude." Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3069. Goen's words could not scare off the Saint Emperors. If one sentence could scare them off, then they wouldn't need to climb up the platform. After that Saint Emperor reached the 16th stair, Goen made his move without hesitation. His hand glowed with a dark golden light. Gusts of wind shot out from his fingers. The gusts of wind were so strong that the Saint Emperors below could not move at all. They had to take it head on. The gusts of wind hit the Saint Emperor and left several holes in his body. Boom, boom, boom. After that, Goen released a series of gigantic palms that smashed the Saint Emperor down forcefully. Furthermore, he didn't just roll down, he was sent flying. PFF, the Saint Emperor spat out some blood. He struggled to get up. He glared at Goen in anger and said, "Goen, you and I cannot exist under the same sky. We cannot exist under the same sky." Goen sneered and said, "Come on up. If you can kill me, I will not say another word." The expressions of the Saint Emperors who followed behind became very ugly. The first Saint Emperor who went up was not weak, but he was easily sent flying by Goen and was even heavily injured. What could they do if they went up? They would be smashed down in the end. The platform was too advantageous. Attacks from the outside were blocked by the runes. They were suppressed under the platform. It was difficult for them to attack going up there. On the other hand, Goen could easily hit them with his attacks from above. They had to go up one by one. In this case, all the Saint Emperors would not be a match for Goen's soul attacks. One of the Saint Emperors shouted. The 5 Saint Emperors came to their senses. 3 of them had some understanding of soul attacks. They targeted Goen with their soul attacks. Unfortunately, their soul attacks were not strong. Goen could fend them off easily. "Let's try using treasures," some Saint Emperors shouted. 2 Saint Emperors released their artifacts as well. However, Luli's Sacred Mountain was easily suppressed back then. Even these artifacts were immobilized by the gravity. Okay, Goen was relieved. As long as the Saint Emperors below did not come up, he would have enough time to go up the platform. He had plenty of time, because he felt that it was impossible for Saint Emperors who were infinitely close to the consummate level to enter this place, and Emperor Yong wouldn't allow them to enter either. If an expert of this level were to enter, the entire tomb of Emperor Yong would collapse. At that time, Miss Li and the others would also die. Who would dare to take the risk? As long as there weren't any Saint Emperors who were infinitely close to Paragon's Saint Emperors, he was an invincible existence on the high platform. Who could kill him? Therefore, the halberd of Sovereign Yong would definitely be his in the end. Goen calmed down, but the other Saint Emperors were worried, not knowing what to do. They couldn't go up, and they couldn't do anything to him from below. They could only watch helplessly as he took the halberd of Sovereign Yong. A few Sacred Emperors glanced at Miss Li and the other 2 desolate race elders, looking at them pleadingly. However, Miss Li shook her head and said, "Goen has already said that he has left the Tiango race, so it's not our place to interfere. We'll report this matter to the clan later. Right now, we don't care about the matter of fighting for the treasure. You can rely on your own abilities." All right. Those Saint Emperors sighed helplessly. They could only think of a solution themselves. On the other side, Aochi was also a little anxious. He looked at Aou, but Aou did not panic at all. He said indifferently, "What's the rush? Even if Goen gets the halberd of Sovereign Yong, can he take it away? He has to come down from above, right? He'll be surrounded by so many Saint Emperors the moment he comes down. We'll take advantage of the chaos to make our move. If Goen can leave the Tiango race, Aou, can also leave the Red Dragon race." This, Aochi was slightly stunned. He said, "If you leave the race, you'll be hunted by the various races. When that happens, the race won't be able to protect you. If you have the halberd of Sovereign Yong, there will definitely be countless old demons chasing after you." "Kiki," Aou chuckled and sent a voice transmission. "As long as I get the halberd of Sovereign Yong, I will find a place to refine it. Once I refine it, I will be able to release the full power of the halberd. With my battle strength and the halberd of Sovereign Yong, I won't even be afraid of ordinary Saint Emperors who are infinitely close to the Paragon Saint Emperors. Paragon Saint Emperors won't chase after me, right?" "That's true." Aochi nodded slightly. Paragon Saint Emperors naturally wouldn't chase after Aou. There were only 3 Paragon Saint Emperors in the entire infinite desolate star field. These 3 experts wouldn't act easily or lower themselves to chase after Aou. "What's more," Aou chuckled, "if I really can't do it, I can go to another star field. I still have hundreds of thousands of years to live. After floating outside for tens of thousands of years, I might be able to reach the level of Paragon Saint Emperors. By then, who would dare to cause trouble for me?" "Yes, yes." Aochi nodded and then said firmly, "Elder Aou, just do your best later. I will secretly support you. Don't be hasty. Aou found a corner and sat down cross-legged. He sent a voice transmission. From the looks of it, it will take at least 10 days to half a month to get up. Don't be hasty. Just wait. Yes, I think so too. Aochi looked at Goen. Although Goen was only one step away from the high platform, it was not an easy step to take. Otherwise, he would have gone up long ago. Why would he still be lingering there? As expected, Goen had been sitting there for the past few days. He seemed to be thinking hard of a solution. The other Saint Emperors rushed towards the two high platforms. It was difficult to get up in the beginning, and their speed slowed down towards the end. This was especially true for the high platform on the left. The first Saint Emperor rushed up to the 11th stone stair and was blasted down on the 12th stair. Aoyu did not care much about the young Emperor armor and the young Emperor world. Defense and soul defense were not very useful. Offense was the best defense. Only powerful attacks could tear apart all enemies. Time passed quickly. 13 days passed. Goen thought of many ways and tried to get up 3 or 4 times. However, he was injured every time. One time, he was seriously injured. The 18th level's divine inscription attack looked simple. It was just a beam of light descending from the sky. However, this light beam did not attack the external appearance. Instead, it directly bombarded the martial artist's life, force, and soul. No matter how strong the defense was, it was useless. The only way to get up was to find a way to break the divine inscription attack. If he could force his way up, Goen would do it even if he was seriously injured. However, the moment Goen was attacked, a feeling emerged in his soul. If he continued forward, he would have to endure another 3 or 4 of these attacks. Now, he could not even withstand a single attack. If 3 or 4 attacks were to hit him, he would definitely die a miserable death. Hence, he retreated time and time again, unable to take that final step. The other 2 high platforms were the same. 2 formidable martial artists were on the 17th level. No one dared to go up to the last level. The divine inscription on it was too terrifying. 2 formidable martial artists went up and eventually returned with serious injuries. Now, the 2 of them did not dare to go up. All the Saint Emperors were studying the 3 high platforms. Many of them had some understanding of divine inscriptions. At this moment, they were all studying the divine inscriptions. As long as the divine inscriptions could be broken, the rest would not be a problem. There were 2 other Saint Emperors who ran over to the golden coffin. Young Lady Li said that they had no intention of desecrating Sovereign Yang's body. They only wanted to study the divine inscriptions. Young Lady Li did not say much. Today was the day. Blood Fairy, who was in the corridor, finally sent a voice transmission. Master, I am sorry. I have studied the divine inscriptions clearly. I cannot break them. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 3070. He could not solve it. Luli opened his eyes abruptly upon hearing this. It meant that he might never be able to get out of this illusion. He might be trapped here for the rest of his life. Or, when Aou and the others came in, he would be killed. Blood Fairy didn't lie, and her words were reliable. Since she said she couldn't solve it, since she said she could not solve it, Luli did not have to ask more questions. At least, for the time being, Blood Fairy could not solve it. Since Blood Fairy could not solve it, then Luli would have to rely on himself. He could not wait for his death here. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Luli asked, "Tell me everything you know about the specific strengths of the patterns here." Okay. Blood Fairy told Luli everything she knew. Luli went through the information and fell into deep thought again. This time, he spent half a day thinking. Then, he stepped out of the sacred mountain. He put away the sacred mountain, closed his eyes, and walked forward slowly. Standing on the ground, he walked forward step by step with steady steps. One of his hands was still touching the wall. He did not believe that he could not walk out of the illusion if he kept touching the wall. He was using the stupidest method. If the path was not endless, then one day he would reach the end. He picked up his pace. He was not fast, but he could cover thousands of miles in 2 hours. Still, the stupidest method did not work. Luli had been walking like this for 10 hours. He felt the path was straight and there was no deviation. In 10 hours, he must have covered at least 300,000 miles. Still, he had not reached the end. Around him was still the dark fog. It seemed that the path was endless. He could not walk out no matter how far he went. Every step he took, Luli felt his feet were on the ground. He could touch the wall with each step. Therefore, he believed the path he was walking on was real. But the path could not be so long. It was not necessary to build such a long path for a cemetery. What was the point? What was more, was this space infinite as well? To cultivate a path that was millions of miles long, it would take a lot of time, materials, and patterns. Take the master of the tomb as an example. Would a powerful warrior be so bored? An expert who is infinitely close to great perfection would not waste his time on such a boring question. Therefore, after much deliberation, Luli came to the conclusion that the only possibility was that there were powerful time and space runes here. He felt that he had walked millions of miles, but in fact he had only walked a few miles. Perhaps he was like an ant in a model that kept crawling and crawling. Perhaps Luli looked up and suddenly had a strange feeling. Perhaps there was a tomb keeper in this tomb. At this moment, a pair of eyes was staring at him mockingly, as if it was watching a grasshopper jumping around. You can't get out. At this moment, Luli understood something. If he didn't think of a way to decipher the divine inscriptions, he would never be able to leave this place in this lifetime. Perhaps he felt like he was walking straight ahead, but what he saw and felt were all illusions. He might just be walking around in a circle, turning and turning. Luli stopped and sat down with his legs crossed. He began to think, not about how to break the array, but about the meaning behind the tomb owner's arrangement. He felt that something was strange. The tomb master's remains were all in the main hall in front of him, and all the treasures were in the main hall. What was the point of having a corridor here? Not to mention that there was a teleportation altar in the main hall. Theoretically speaking, the main hall should be the end of the tomb. There was no need to have a corridor here. This was not right. Something must be wrong when something was wrong. Therefore, Luli began to figure out the meaning behind the tomb owner's arrangement. As long as he could figure out the meaning behind the tomb owner's arrangement, he might be able to crack it. He had been sitting there for 15 days. During this time, he still couldn't figure it out. He believed that either Emperor Yong was out of his mind or he hadn't figured it out yet. Luli was stuck in a dead end, and so were the Saint Emperors in the main hall. None of the powerful warriors could go up to the 18th level of the 3 platforms. No matter what they tried, they just couldn't go up. The Saint Emperors that went up to the 1st and 2nd platforms had flown down, leaving the opportunity for the other Saint Emperors. Otherwise, the other Saint Emperors would not be happy about it. Anyone would be unhappy to occupy the toilet, but not take a **T. The Saint Emperors took turns to go up. 7 or 8 Saint Emperors tried, but none of them could go up. All the Saint Emperors felt like they had entered a treasure mountain, but they were going back empty-handed. Lady Li, why don't you go up and give it a try? The Saint Emperor walked to Lady Li's side and said in a fawning manner. Everyone had seen Lady Li's defense. Perhaps she could withstand the sacred glyph? No one could take the treasure. Rather than wasting it here, it was better to give it to Lady Li. It was also a way to form good karma with the desolate race. That's right. Another Saint Emperor came to his senses and said with a smile, Lady Li, don't worry. If you get the treasure, it will definitely be yours. Whoever dares to object will have to go through me, Lu Sanxian. Lady Li's defense is so strong. Lady Li will definitely get it if she goes up. The Young Emperor's armor and Young Emperor's ring are treasures. They are very compatible with a proud son of heaven like Lady Li. Lady Li, go up and give it a try. The treasure belongs to the virtuous, and Lady Li is a virtuous person. A group of Saint Emperors echoed. Since they couldn't take it, anyone would do her a favor. Lady Li was young, but she had already reached the Saint Emperor realm. In the future, she would definitely become one of the most powerful figures of the desolate race. The desolate race did not marry outsiders, only within the desolate race. Hence, even if Lady Li married, she would still be a member of the desolate race. If this situation continued, as long as Lady Li did not die, she would definitely become a supreme expert. Would Lady Li die? Unless Lady Li left the infinite desolate star region, the chances of her dying were nearly zero. Who would dare kill Lady Li in the infinite desolate star region? Unless they were tired of living. Such a person naturally had to be befriended. In the future, if they needed help from the desolate race, it would be a way to form good karma. Lady Li was somewhat hesitant. The two Saint Emperors beside her stood proudly without a word. This time, the Yin-Yang World's Saint Emperors had begged Lady Li to go. This was not a violation of the agreement, as they had all recorded it down. Lady Li pondered for a moment before saying, "I am a member of the desolate race. The young Emperor's tomb is in the Yin-Yang World. I am here to mediate. If I were to snatch the treasure, people would probably talk about it if word got out." "So what?" One of the Saint Emperors hurriedly said. "If we were able to obtain the treasure, it would be a mistake for Lady Li to snatch it. Now that we do not have the ability to obtain it, leaving the treasure here will cause trouble. When the time comes, it will cause a war between the various races. If Lady Li were to obtain the treasure, it would be because of your outstanding ability. If anyone dares to gossip, I, Lu Sanxian, will be the first to give them a good scolding." The other Saint Emperors tried to persuade her. Actually, they did not have any bad intentions. After Lady Li obtained the Young Emperor's armor and Young Emperor's ring, she would definitely be tempted by the Young Emperor's halberd. When the time came, if they were to instigate her, she might take the initiative to charge towards Goen. Once Miss Li was on the high platform, would Goen still dare to make a move on her? If Goen did not attack her, he could only retreat. When the time came, everyone could join forces to kill him to vent their anger. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3071. Miss Li was indeed tempted. She was young after all. Although she didn't have much desire for treasures, the previous treasures were given to her by the desolate race and elders. If she could take the treasures herself, it would have a different meaning, not to mention that these three treasures were all famous treasures. She used a seal stone to record the current scene. She didn't fight for the treasure, but the experts of the Yin and Yang world couldn't obtain the treasure, and they even took the initiative to ask her to help them. No matter where she brought this matter, no one would say anything. She nodded and didn't say anything pretentious. She took the initiative to walk towards the center of the platform. She was quite interested in the ring, and in terms of armor, she was also wearing top-grade armor. The young Emperor's armor was similar to the one she was wearing. She walked to the middle platform and sank down as soon as she stepped on it. However, her armor lit up and a stream of light flowed within it, making her look even more beautiful. She didn't kneel down, but continued to walk step by step against the pressure. However, when she reached the fourth step, she finally couldn't take it anymore. Her body was pressed down, and she was forced to crawl on the ground. This was very indecent. It was rare to see a rich young lady, a top young lady of the infinite desolate star field, crawling step by step with her, but in the air. Therefore, there was a reason why Miss Li was hesitant and didn't want to go up. Miss Li had already made up her mind, so she didn't think too much. She gritted her teeth and climbed up step by step. Soon, she reached the sixth step, and the runes on it began to attack. It had to be said that Miss Li's armor's defense was very strong. The runes on it didn't hurt her at all. She climbed up just like that. A group of Saint Emperors stared at Miss Li. Seeing her climb up with her, but in the air, some of the Saint Emperors had lustful looks in their eyes. The desolate race did not marry outsiders, so no one dared to touch this Miss Li. Therefore, the group of old men could only fantasize. Miss Li's combat strength wasn't strong, but her defense was heaven-defying. In just 2 hours, she stood on the 17th step. The Saint Emperors all flew down to make way for Miss Li. Miss Li struggled to sit up on the 17th floor. She then swallowed a few pills and rested for a full 2 hours before getting up. She took out a snow-white mirror and placed it on her head, then slowly climbed up to the 18th floor. Boom, boom, boom. A beam of light whizzed down and hit the mirror. The beam of light was actually reflected back a little. Only a small portion of the energy entered the mirror and entered Miss Li's body. Miss Li's delicate body trembled, but she did not hesitate and continued to climb forward quickly. The beams of light shot down continuously, but they were all bounced back by the mirror. Only a small amount of energy entered Miss Li's body. Even so, the aura within Miss Li's body was weakening at a rate visible to the naked eye. At the same time, Miss Li's body was trembling nonstop and her face was extremely pale. Blood flowed out from the corners of her mouth. It was obvious that she was seriously injured. Miss! The two desolate race elders immediately turned anxious. One of the elders shouted, "Miss, quickly retreat. You can't continue walking forward. Quickly retreat." Miss Li did not retreat. Instead, she gritted her teeth and continued to climb forward. Under the nervous gazes of countless people, Miss Li actually climbed up the high platform. However, as soon as she got on the platform and sensed that there was no danger, she immediately fainted on the platform. Miss! The two elders immediately panicked. However, after sensing for a while, they discovered that Miss Li was not dead. She had only fainted. The two elders slightly relaxed. As long as she was not dead, it would be fine. Miss Li's body was very strong, and she would recover very quickly. She would wake up in at most a day or two. She went up. The eyes of many Saint Emperors lit up. Some of the Saint Emperors had looks of envy. If not for Miss Li's identity, many of the Saint Emperors would probably be filled with hatred and killing intent. Go began to panic. Miss Li had actually gone up. If she could go up, then the other high platforms would definitely be able to go up as well. If she ascended to her high platform, where would she go? If he attacked her, he would be making an enemy of the desolate race. There would be no place for him in the entire infinite region. If he did not attack her, what if Miss Li attacked him and smashed him down? If that happened, the young Emperor Halberd would be taken away, he would be chased down and surrounded by a group of Saint Emperors. Not only would he not get anything, he would also die here. Hurry up! Gohan could only think of a way to climb up within half a month. After Miss Li obtained the ring, she would definitely think of a way to obtain the young Emperor Halberd. Only then would she have designs on the young Emperor Halberd. Indeed, Miss Li woke up a day later. She probed the high platform, and after confirming that there was no danger, she easily took the young Emperor ring. She held the ring in her hand and carefully sensed it. Her pale face blushed. This was no doubt the young Emperor ring. She could tell that the ring was a treasure just by sensing it. Not bad, not bad. She was after all a young girl. Although the desolate race was cold and aloof, and Miss Li was severely injured, she still revealed a faint smile. Phew, the high platform did not have any divine rune arrays. Miss Li tried jumping down and landed straight on the ground. The two desolate race experts immediately surrounded her. Miss Li said with a faint smile, "I'm fine. I just lost some of my life essence. I will recover after a period of rest. All right, let's recuperate first. There's no rush anyway." One of the elders said. The other elder nodded. The desolate race did not lack treasures, but Miss Li was the most important. If anything were to happen to Miss Li, they would all be severely punished. Miss Li did not dare to take the risk. She walked to a corner and took out a jade box. In the jade box was a white herb with a rich fragrance. She took it out and began refining it. Holy Spirit herb. A sacred emperor recognized the divine herb and could not help but twitch his mouth. This divine herb was no ordinary divine herb. Even they did not dare to casually use such a divine herb when they were injured. This divine herb was too precious, yet Miss Li had casually refined it. It looked like she was refining an ordinary divine herb. The desolate race is indeed rich. The other sacred emperor sighed. However, upon further thought, the desolate race occupied the best plane in the infinite desolate star domain. They occupied so many top-grade resources and treasured lands. If they weren't rich, who could be? After 4 to 5 days of recuperation, Miss Li had fully recovered from her injuries. She once again began climbing the first high platform on the left. After spending more than half a day, she successfully climbed up and took the young emperor armor. Miss Li is awesome. She's indeed a heavenly genius. That's right, that's right. Miss Li is a peerless genius of the desolate race that only appears once every 10,000 years. We concede defeat. Miss Li, this young emperor tomb belongs to our yin-yang world. Today, all the large races of the yin-yang world have representatives. We have decided to give the young emperor halberd to Miss Li. Miss Li can go up and take this peerless divine weapon. Yes, yes. Since we can't take the young emperor halberd, Miss Li, you can take it. It's better for you to take it than that old dog. Miss Li, feel free to take it. Goen has already left the Tiango race. He is now nothing, so there's no need to worry. The surrounding sacred emperors surrounded her and began to instigate Miss Li to take the young emperor halberd. Since they couldn't take it, they might as well give it to Miss Li. This way, they could at least force Goen to retreat and kill him to vent their anger. Chapter 3072. Miss Li was indeed tempted, mainly because she felt a sense of accomplishment after obtaining the two treasures, especially the young emperor's halberd, a famous treasure in the entire infinite region. If she could bring it back, she would no doubt gain face in front of her elders. Born into a wealthy family, she did not lack anything. She had her elders to help her with everything. Even though she had broken through to the Saint Emperor realm at such a young age, she did not feel much of a sense of accomplishment because she had only managed to do so with the help of her elders. She was a very smart person. She knew that wherever she went, she would be fawned upon by countless experts. But deep down, they definitely looked down on her. They believed that she was born into the desolate race and had decent talent. So she wanted to prove herself. Now that she had obtained the young emperor's ring and young emperor's armor, which a group of saint emperors could not obtain, she was naturally overjoyed. Even though she had obtained the two treasures, it was mostly because of the treasures given to her by Ancestor Fu. If she could obtain the young emperor's halberd, her name would immediately spread throughout the entire infinite region. She would also be seen in a different light by the desolate race's elders. This time, she represented the desolate race. Not only did she make the two Scarlet Dragon experts bow their heads, she had also made Goen announce that he was leaving the Tiango clan. This matter had already been settled. If she could obtain the young emperor's halberd, the elders would probably be overjoyed, right? The two desolate race saint emperors were tempted as well. After all, Emperor Yang's halberd was a very famous treasure. It contained powerful true meanings of the laws of space and time. If this treasure landed in the hands of the desolate race, it would greatly increase their combat power. Miss Li did not immediately agree. Instead, she waved her hand. I'm injured. Let me heal first. She walked to a corner and took out another Holy Spirit herb to refine. This scene left many saint emperors speechless. Such a precious Holy Spirit herb was no different from an ordinary divine herb in Miss Li's hands. Was it something that could be squandered? Goen heard the following Saint Emperor's words. He also saw Miss Li's reaction. He was extremely anxious. He knew that Miss Li would definitely come back after she recovered. When that happened, it would not be good for him to act or not. If he acted, he would definitely die. The desolate race would not let him off. If he didn't act, he would also die. The desolate race would immediately surround and kill him. 2 days later, Goen clenched his teeth and made up his mind. No matter what, he had to risk it all. 2 days later, when Miss Li recovered, he would immediately rush up to the top. Even if he died, he would die there. It was pitch dark in the corridor. Dark fog was rolling in. Luli had been sitting here with his legs crossed for a long time. He even had an illusion that he had been sitting here for decades. During this time, he didn't try to decipher the divine glyphs, nor did he count on Blood Fairy. He was trying to figure out what the tomb owner was thinking. As long as he figured out the tomb master's arrangements, he believed that he would be able to leave easily. Why did you arrange it like this? What was the point of this arrangement? Was the tomb owner really that bored? What profound meaning was hidden within? What is Emperor Yong thinking? Many thoughts came to Lu Li's mind. He felt like he had lost his mind and was possessed by the thought. He was a little crazy inside, and as time went on, he became more and more irritable and annoyed. Forget it. Luli opened his eyes and rubbed his temples. Then, he closed his eyes, lay on the ground, and fell asleep. Theoretically speaking, he should sleep in the sacred mountain, where he would be safe. However, he was mentally and physically exhausted. Therefore, he didn't think too much before he fell asleep on the ground. He slept for 2 days. All of a sudden, Luli woke up with a start. In his daze, he seemed to have a sense of movement underground. Bang, bang, bang. The movement underground was rhythmic. It was like a piece of deep music that could strike at one's soul. Luli heard the sound in his daze. The sound dragged him in. He was not in a hurry to wake up. Instead, he kept listening to the rhythm, which gave him a mysterious feeling. Luli was immersed in the rhythm. He waited for over 2 hours before he slowly woke up. The rhythm stopped. He opened his eyes in a daze. The rhythm was still echoing in his mind. Am I dreaming? Luli shook his head. After the time for one incense stick to burn, he came back to his senses and murmured, I don't think I am dreaming. Where did the rhythm come from? Underground? Why is there such a rhythm? What is the meaning of this rhythm? Luli thought about it. He lay on the ground again and listened carefully, but the rhythm did not come again. After a moment of silence, he forced himself to sleep. His soul was empty. Soon, he fell asleep. However, in the time for several incense sticks to burn, Luli was alarmed again. The rhythmic sound came again. This time, Luli paid more attention. He memorized all the rhythms and began to trace the source of the rhythm. It seemed to be underground. Luli secretly used a mark of Tao to check. It did seem that the rhythm was coming from underground, but the rhythm was colorless and shapeless. It was just a vague feeling. After a moment, the rhythm disappeared. Luli told Blood Fairy about this strange situation and the rhythm as well. Blood Fairy pondered for a moment and said, Master, the rhythm seems to be controlling the divine glyphs. Controlling divine patterns? Luli was taken aback. Are you sure? Aren't the divine patterns automatic? Do they need to be controlled? Usually, the divine patterns are automatic. When the one who set them up has set it up, the divine patterns will be automatic. Blood Fairy explained, but some powerful divine patterns can be controlled by people as well. With control, the divine patterns will be more powerful and more precise. What? Luli remembered the hall with the stone pillars. The divine patterns would increase the power of the divine patterns according to the warrior's strength. Luli had been wondering why the divine patterns here were so miraculous. Could it be that there really was a tomb keeper who was controlling the divine patterns? On this thought, Luli had an idea. Blood Fairy, can you imitate the divine patterns controlled by rhythm? That is easy, Blood Fairy replied. The thing is, I do not know how the rhythm is controlling the divine patterns here. I do not know what kind of rhythm controls which divine patterns. I cannot understand the original set pattern. If I release the rhythm at will, something bad will happen. If all the divine patterns in Hall are messed up, this place might collapse. In that case, we will all die. The divine patterns of the divine patterns can be messed up? Luli was not afraid at all after hearing Blood Fairy's words. Instead, his eyes glowed. He shouted, It would be better if it is messed up. The messier, the better. If we can mess up all the divine patterns in the tomb of Emperor Yong, then we can leave this place easily. Trust me, Blood Fairy. We can't decipher the divine inscriptions in this hallway. Our only way out is to cause chaos. If we can cause the tomb of Emperor Yong to explode, then we can get whatever we want. Please remember the original domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3073. Finally, Luli figured it out. This corridor was not designed by Emperor Yong. Emperor Yong would not be so bored unless there were more powerful treasures at the end of the corridor. That was impossible. Emperor Yong's halberd was the most powerful one. What else could be at the end when Emperor Yong's body was here? Moreover, there was a teleportation altar here, which was used to arrange the way out for people. Adding another corridor would just be superfluous. It was abrupt, out of place, and unreasonable. Emperor Yong would not do something so boring. Luli had thought this was Emperor Yong's ingenuity. Now he understood. It was not Emperor Yong, but the Tomb Keeper. The Tomb Keeper had been here for many years with nothing to do. Due to the agreement with Emperor Yong, the Tomb Keeper could not go out. The Tomb Keeper had to find something to do here. This corridor was the result of the Tomb Keeper's boredom. It was a painful lesson for those who came in and were not satisfied with the 3 treasures. They would pay for their greed and be trapped here for the rest of their lives. For those who came in and took the 3 treasures of Emperor Yong's halberd and then left through the altar, nothing would happen to them. If they were greedy and wanted more treasures, they would be walking into a dead end after entering this corridor, a path that they could never leave. Since Lu Li and Blood Fairy could not get out, the only way was to let the Tomb Keeper send him out. How could he let the Tomb Keeper send him out? Lu Li thought of a way, which was to destroy the divine patterns here and make them messy. Before Emperor Yong passed away, he must have made an agreement with the Tomb Keeper. Some red lines could not be touched, and some principles could not be broken. For example, the divine patterns here could not be messed up. Also, the Tomb Keeper could not use the divine patterns to kill the warriors who came in. Those should be the red lines. Otherwise, if the Tomb Keeper acted rashly, all the warriors who came in would die. Of course, if Blood Fairy messed up the divine patterns here, the Tomb Keeper might kill Lu Li and Blood Fairy. Maybe Emperor Yong had set up such a rule. But Lu Li wanted to take a gamble. This was his only way out. All of this was Lu Li's speculation. He did not know if it would work out or not. He had no other choice but to take the risk. Lu Li told Blood Fairy about the rhythm he had sensed, and she began to study it. Blood Fairy knew how to control divine glyphs through rhythm, but she had never used it before. This time, she wanted to give it a try. At this moment, the main hall was bustling with noise and excitement, because Miss Li had moved. In the end, Miss Li could not hold back any longer. She prepared to take the young Emperor halberd. This weapon was too famous. If she could take it, her name would spread throughout the entire infinite region. Although she was very famous in the past, it was all because of the desolate race. Now, she was prepared to rely on herself to gain some fame. She wanted to prove herself. She walked towards the high platform on the right. All the holy emperors were gathered below the high platform. The holy emperors above had all come down, and they were waiting for Miss Li to go up and see how Goen would handle this. If Goen was sent flying by Miss Li, then they would have fun. A group of sane emperors would torture Goen to death. The powerhouses of the 33 major clans were undoubtedly delighted to be able to slaughter them in broad daylight. Miss Li was fast. She had reached the 13th stone stair, while Goen was still on the 17th stair, not daring to go up. He had gone up once in the past few days. He tried to risk his life, but failed and almost died. Goen was still on the 17th stair. He had recovered a little, but he had lost all hope. He did not know what to do. Miss Li was coming up bit by bit. Goen's eyes were closed, but he could sense it clearly. He was struggling internally, wondering if he should do something to Miss Li. What about Aou? In the corner, Ao Chi was struggling as well. He said to Ao Chi, "If Miss Li takes the young Emperor halberd, then all our efforts will be in vain. That human bastard must have run far away. We will not be able to answer to the Cauldron Emperor when we get back. Don't worry. Let's wait and see." Aou sighed and replied, "Goen might take the risk out of desperation. We still have a chance. I know Goen. If he takes action, Miss Li will not be able to go up. Do you understand? Goen will take action. Isn't that a little too bold?" Ao Chi was slightly alarmed as he stared at Goen, waiting for the situation to change. The other sacred emperors were also waiting. The 2 sacred emperors were even more nervous, afraid that Miss Li would lose a strand of hair. 15th level, 16th level. At this moment, Goen's eyes opened abruptly. Then, he waved his hands, and a series of gigantic palms were formed, slapping towards Miss Li. Goen had indeed taken a risk. Goen thought that if Miss Li came up, she would definitely think of a way to force him down. If not, how would she go up to the 18th level? How would she take the young Emperor halberd? And once he went down, he would most likely be dismembered by the experts below. Since it was death, what was there to be afraid of? At most, he would be hunted by the desolate race. As long as he took the young Emperor halberd and successfully escaped, he could think of a way to escape infinite desolate star region and go to another star region. How dare you? The two sacred emperors were immediately enraged. One of them roared, "Goen, if you dare to attack my race's miss, the desolate race will definitely hunt you down." Boom, boom, boom. Miss Li was continuously attacked and could not stabilize her body. She tumbled down the 15th level, but thankfully, her defenses were strong and she was not injured. She was just covered in dirt. Ha ha. Goen laughed loudly and said, "You desolate race sure are awesome. Only you are allowed to hit others, but others are not allowed to hit you. Today Goen, will take action. Since I have already been expelled by the Tingo race, I'm alone. What's there to be afraid of? Miss Li, right? I advise you not to come up, or don't blame me if you die." Goen was going all out. He did not care about anything. As long as Miss Li dared to come up, he would dare to smack her down. It did not matter even if he smacked her death. If he attacked Miss Li, it would be a provocation to the prestige ancestor. The desolate race would not let him off, so there was no difference if he smacked Miss Li to death or not. Miss Li was enraged. Her hair was disheveled, making her lose a lot of face. A faint killing intent flashed in her eyes as she continued climbing up. A mirror appeared in her hand, as well as a tiny red sword. This sword was naturally a sacred weapon, one personally refined by the prestige ancestor. There were nomological truths engraved on it by the prestige ancestor. Although it was not a top sacred weapon, it was not weak either. Goen revealed a mocking smile. Although Miss Li was covered in treasures, she had just broken through to the sacred emperor realm not long ago. Furthermore, she did not have much actual combat experience. To him, she was no different from a child holding a divine weapon. Phew! Just as Miss Li reached the 16th stone step, Goen took action. His hands flashed continuously as countless finger winds flashed, transforming into flood dragons that shot towards Miss Li. Miss Li did not even have time to react before her body was struck by countless finger winds. She felt a pain in her hand as she did not manage to hold on to the red sacred weapon and mirror. They were sent flying. Boom, boom, boom. Following that, Goen released a large palm seal, easily sending Miss Li tumbling down. Please remember this book's original domain name. Third Sect Masters mobile version. Chapter 3074. This time, young Mistress Li was not injured, but she was in a worse state. Her expression was even uglier. Since young, she had never suffered such humiliation. This time, she was embarrassed in front of so many formidable martial artists. She even had the thought of dying. However, she was still very smart. Although her heart was filled with killing intent, she did not act rashly. Instead, she began to ponder. She could not go up like this. She had to think of a way. Otherwise, she would be blasted down again and again. She pondered for the time it took for an incense stick to burn before returning to the stone staircase below. She put away the mirror and the small red sword, and then slowly climbed up. This time, she stopped at the 15th stone staircase. She then began to release a secret art. Her body emitted a thick pink mist. That mist spread out and quickly enveloped the stone staircase nearby. Poisonous mist? Goen's eyes turned cold. He sensed for a moment and began to release his palms, trying to disperse the pink mist. He released a few palms, but the mist could not be dispersed. That feeling was not mist, but an illusion. Illusion realm? Goen suddenly realized that this was not mist, but an illusion realm. He scanned with his divine perception and indeed found that he had lost track of young Mistress Li. His heart tightened. Gusts of wind shot out from his fingers, and they danced around like flood dragons. He released the finger winds not to attack, but to find out where young Mistress Li was. The Saint Emperors below were all astonished. At this moment, they also realized that the stone staircase from the 14th to the 18th step was covered by the pink mist. They could not use their divine perception to investigate and could not see the situation inside. Oh no! AOU. However, exclaimed softly, Goen is about to lose. This is a secret art created by Ancestor Fu, called the Whole Sky Formation. I did not expect young Mistress Li to succeed in cultivating it. Goen will not be able to break this formation in a short time. This is an illusion array, right? Ao Chi, however, said disapprovingly, what is there to worry about an illusion array? Young Mistress Li's defense is very strong, but her battle strength is still lacking. If she goes up to the 17th step, Goen will definitely sense it. At that time, he will be able to defeat her easily. You are wrong. Aou shook his head and said, you have forgotten something. You have forgotten the desolate race's innate mystical ability. Ao Chi faltered slightly before his expression turned bitter. The desolate race's innate divine powers were indeed powerful. Goen might not be able to withstand it. Up above, Miss Li had already reached the 16th floor. Although there were countless finger winds dancing above, Miss Li did not care. She quickly climbed up and climbed to the 17th floor. The diamond mark on her forehead lit up, and an invisible light shot out and entered Goen's body. At this moment, Goen became absent-minded, as if he had a feeling that time was in disorder. He felt that he had returned to the original scene. A pink mist spread out. Xiao! The small red sword in Miss Li's hand flew out. The small sword turned into a fiery red dragon in midair. It roared and smashed towards Goen with an earth-shaking aura. Goen felt time distort for a breath of time. When he woke up, the fire dragon had already slammed into him. His heart shook, and before he could react, the fire dragon had already smashed into him. Boom! A huge force came over him as he felt a sharp pain in his body. Following that, his body flew up and flew off the high platform. Goen was extremely anxious and terrified. There was a group of Saint Emperors below him. He was like a lamb that had fallen into a pack of wolves. The desolate race's innate divine power. He was secretly annoyed. He originally thought that Miss Li had just broken through to Saint Emperor, so her innate divine power would not affect him. He never expected it to affect him for a breath of time. And this breath of time was enough to be fatal. The desolate race's innate divine power was publicly known as the strongest innate divine power in the infinite desolate star field. Their innate divine power naturally contained the true meaning of time. It could make the enemy feel that time was in disorder, making them unable to distinguish the situation. In a battle between experts, a breath of time was enough to determine life and death. That was why the desolate race was so strong, and why they could become the overlords of the infinite desolate star field. Wong! Before Goen floated down, his body lit up with a dazzling light. Following that, his aura skyrocketed. He waved his hands continuously, and a sky full of finger winds shot out. It was like a sky full of sword lights, covering the heads of the dozen or so Saint Emperors below him. Goen's aura skyrocketed, and so did his attack power. The finger winds carried a fatal aura, and the Saint Emperors hurriedly retreated to avoid being hit. Goen's body drew an arc in the air, and he rushed toward the teleportation altar as fast as he could. Since he could not obtain the young Emperor's halberd, Goen naturally had to save his life. He had to escape first. He's tried to escape. The Saint Emperors came to their senses, but Goen's speed was too fast. He rushed to the side of the altar in an instant. As he quickly activated the altar, he turned his head and laughed sinisterly. Hee, you want to kill me? Dream on. His smile quickly froze before he could completely relax. This was because he realized that the teleportation altar had been sealed. The surrounding Saint Emperors were also startled, and then they all laughed. All the Saint Emperors had sinister smiles in their eyes. One Saint Emperor laughed and said, Goen, why aren't you laughing? Continue laughing, ha ha ha. You bastard. The other Saint Emperor laughed and said, Continue to run, continue to be arrogant, continue to attack, don't stop. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The more than a dozen Saint Emperors surrounded Go and pulled a long face, and his eyes were filled with fear. The Heaven Hound race was good at tracking and running. But how could he run under such circumstances? Who was the one who sealed this teleportation altar? Was it that human bastard? Gohan thought came to his mind. Soon he understood. If Luli had teleported out from here, how could he have had the time to seal the altar? If it was not Luli who did it, then the seal must have been there all along. Then where was Luli? The corridor. Gohan came to his senses. All of a sudden, he flew up and became transparent. He turned into a gust of wind and was about to dash toward the corridor. Buzzing, a purple wall of air sprang up in the sky. Gohan bumped into the wall of air. A Saint Emperor laughed and said, "You want to run? In your dreams." Boom, boom, boom. The Saint Emperors around him began to attack Gohan in a frenzy. Gohan was fast. He dodged left and right and dodged. But no matter how he dodged, there were too many Saint Emperors around him. Soon he was hit. "Aou, what should we do?" Aochi was panicking. If Gohan died, then the Saint Emperors of the Yin and Yang realm would have the absolute advantage. It was almost impossible for them to take down Sovereign Yang's halberd. "What else can we do?" Aou sighed. "Are we a match for the dozen Saint Emperors? Admit defeat this time. Wait and see. Don't do anything rash." Boom! After dozens of attacks, Gohan could no longer hold on. A Saint Emperor landed a blow on him. His head was crushed, and he died instantly. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3075. With Gohan dead, all the uncertainties were gone. Miss Li was relieved. The young Emperor halberd had been taken. The two desolate race experts were delighted. With the 3 treasures taken, it was a complete success. Miss Li did not rush up immediately. She sat cross-legged and prepared to rest and recuperate for a period of time. She wanted to be in peak condition so that nothing would happen. With Gohan dead and Aou and company obedient, Miss Li was in no hurry. There were 2 desolate race elders watching, so how could they overturn the heavens? Half a day passed quickly. Suddenly, something strange happened in the Grand Hall. The hall shook violently, and the runes on the walls began to flash. Following that, a thick black fog appeared. What's going on? The sacred emperors were alarmed. Why were the runes flashing for no reason? And why was there a black fog? Was there poison in the black fog? The crowd sensed and felt relieved after confirming that there was no poison in the black fog. How strange! Aochi's eyes flashed with astonishment. His attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions were extremely deep. Earlier, he sensed that the divine inscriptions in this great hall seemed to be convulsing. They only moved a little before returning to normal. This didn't make sense. The divine inscriptions here looked very stable. So why would such a situation occur? No one in the Grand Hall moved. No one had touched the runes. The exit seems to be sealed. Let's unseal it first. A sacred emperor came to a realization. The runes in the Grand Hall were so powerful. There had to be no problems. They had to prepare the exit first so that they could escape at any time. A sacred emperor who was proficient in runes went over and checked. He said, "This rune is very powerful. It will probably take 2 to 3 days to unseal it. During this time, do not touch any runes." I felt that something was wrong with the runes. All the experts felt that something was wrong. The runes had flashed and then stopped moving. No one had touched them. It was too strange. Miss Li was in seclusion, so she did not know what was happening outside. The 2 desolate race elders did not wake her up. Miss Li was going to the 18th floor. If she was not in peak condition, something might happen. Buzz, after waiting for a while, the hall shook again, and the divine inscription flashed again, but after that, there was no more movement. What's going on? Did I see a ghost? Who's activating the divine inscription? The group of Saint Emperors all felt their hair stand on end, feeling as though this place was haunted. They were already in the graveyard, and the divine inscriptions were still flashing. If it were a group of Saint Emperors, if it were a bunch of weak cultivators, their legs would have already turned soft from fear. Of course, it wasn't a ghost. It was Blood Fairy. Luli asked Blood Fairy to control the patterns in the tomb of Emperor Yong at will. Surprisingly, it worked. She didn't understand the meaning of these rhythms, but she could control them as she pleased. Under her control, the divine imprints in many places started to activate. Some of the divine runes in the halls unleashed terrifying attacks that destroyed the entire hall. Boom, 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 buzz, 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 cheat, cheat. At this moment, if there was someone who could scan the entire tomb of the young emperor, they would discover that the divine inscriptions in countless halls were all activated in a haphazard manner. Some items within the tomb of the young emperor had already been destroyed, and the entire place was in utter chaos. Master, many divine inscriptions have already been activated. Do you still want to continue? Blood Fairy asked Lu Li after she had been messing around. She was afraid that at this rate, the divine inscriptions in the tomb of Emperor Yong would be messed up. By then, the tomb of Emperor Yong would collapse, and they would die without a burial site. Lu Li sat on the ground, expressionless. Inside, he was nervous. If the agreement that Emperor Yong gave to the tomb keeper stated that the tomb keeper could kill at will, then Lu Li and Blood Fairy would be killed soon. Therefore, Lu Li was nervous. He kept an eye on the surroundings. If anything went wrong, he would go to the sacred mountain at once. Go on. Lu Li waited for a moment. Nothing unexpected happened. He made up his mind and continued to give orders to Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy continued to mess up the divine inscriptions in the tomb of Emperor Yong. This time, more halls were in a mess. Some of the halls even directly exploded. Buzzing, right at that moment, an invisible ripple spread out to where Blood Fairy was. Blood Fairy sensed something. She said to Lu Li in pleasant surprise, "Master, there's a strange psychic power coming from underground. That psychic power means, if I continue to act recklessly, he will kill us. There really is a tomb keeper." Ha ha ha. Lu Li laughed. He was overjoyed. He stood up and paced up and down in excitement. He thought about it and said, "Blood Fairy, send a message. He must surrender to me, or I will destroy the tomb of Emperor Yong." At this moment, Lu Li was certain that this tomb keeper would not dare to kill him and Blood Fairy. Otherwise, he would not send a message and would kill them directly. Usually, if a tomb keeper had this kind of authority, he would not waste time with the challengers. He would not expose himself and let the challengers know of his existence. Therefore, Lu Li demanded an exorbitant price. If this tomb keeper surrendered, then he would be in control of the entire tomb of Emperor Yong. He could kill anyone he wanted. Soon, Blood Fairy sent a message. That tomb keeper refused and continued to threaten Lu Li. Ha, 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 ha. Lu Li laughed. He was calmer. He said, "Don't mind him. Keep controlling the rhythm and make the divine inscriptions chaotic. The more chaotic, the better. The divine inscriptions will yield." Okay. Blood Fairy continued to control the divine inscriptions through the rhythm. She did not know exactly what kind of rhythm could control the divine inscriptions. She just wanted to mess around and see what went wrong. Buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. Once again, something went wrong in the hall. The divine inscriptions were glaring. Dark fog kept surging out, and the hall was shaking. What was worse was that the coffin was trembling as if Emperor Yong was about to climb out. Young lady, the leaders of the wild race were frightened. They were afraid that something was wrong. They said to Lady Li at once, "Young lady, wake up. Get the halberd of Emperor Yong and come down at once. I think something is going to happen to the hall." Ao Chi, a Saint Emperor, suddenly walked over to Ao Chi and said, "The hall might be in trouble. You are skilled in divine inscriptions. Go and help to open the seal. That way, we can go out at any time." Ao Chi looked at Ao Yu, who nodded. Either way, they must have a way out first. In this way, if something went wrong, they could at least stay alive. Ao Chi hurried to the altar and began to crack the seal. On the other side, Lady Li woke up. After a series of voice transmissions, her expression changed. After some thought, she took out another Holy Spirit herb and refined it. 2 hours later, Lady Li stood up and quickly climbed up to the 18th floor. All the Saint Emperors looked over. Lady Li clenched her teeth and climbed up. A beam of white light immediately blasted down. Her body trembled and her face turned pale. But she did not hesitate. Step by step, she climbed forward. Countless beams of light shot down. With the help of the mirror and the powerful armor, Lady Li successfully climbed up the platform. Great! The two Saint Emperors were overjoyed. Lady Li's pale face also revealed a smile. Although she was very weak, she did not faint this time. Instead, she staggered towards the halberd of Emperor Yong. Lady Li was just one step away from the halberd of Emperor Yong. The next moment, she was about to grab the halberd of Emperor Yong. The entire platform lit up with a beam of light. Following that, the halberd of Emperor Yong suddenly disappeared without a trace. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Masters mobile version. Chapter 3076. Disappeared. Misty blinked her eyes, thinking she had seen wrongly. The group of Saint Emperors below also blinked their eyes in confusion before looking at each other. This young Emperor's halberd had been there all along, but when Misty went up and was about to take it, it disappeared. Could it be that young Emperor did not want to give his halberd to others? Was he deliberately toying with them? No one could figure it out. Misty scanned her surroundings and became angry. She had worked so hard to get up here, and just as she was about to get it, the cooked duck had flown away. Why did this happen? No one could figure it out. Aou exchanged glances with Ao Chi, who was deciphering the divine patterns. Aou asked with a voice transmission, Ao Chi, did you feel the abnormality of the divine patterns? Did you find out where young Emperor's halberd went? The divine patterns here have been acting strangely. Ao Chi shook his head slightly and replied, how can I sense where young Emperor's halberd went? I'm not a god. I can calculate everything. The divine patterns here were so complicated and mysterious. If Ao Chi could decipher them, young Emperor's halberd would have been taken long ago. Therefore, Ao was overthinking. What is this corridor for? Finally, someone noticed the corridor. Previously, because young Emperor's halberd was here, no one paid attention to the corridor. Now that young Emperor's halberd had suddenly disappeared, someone naturally had his eyes on the corridor. Don't go in. One of the desolate race's Saint Emperors suddenly said, I feel that there's a great danger in this corridor. I tried to sense it earlier, and it might be impossible to come out once you enter. The Saint Emperor wanted to go in and investigate, but he immediately retreated. Some members of the desolate race had the ability to avoid danger. Since the desolate race's elder had said so, how could the Saint Emperor dare to take the risk? Miss, come down first. Another desolate race's elder said. If they could not take down young Emperor's halberd, then so be it. The desolate race did not lack this bit of treasure. As long as nothing happened to the people, everything else was trivial. Misty circled around the high platform twice. After confirming that young Emperor's halberd had disappeared, she helplessly flew down. She sat in a corner with a cold expression and began recuperating. One day, Ao Chi gave an accurate conclusion. In one day, he would be able to break the seal. When that happened, the group of experts would be able to leave. I'll go for a walk. There was another Saint Emperor who couldn't bear it any longer and flew into the corridor, disappearing. The other two Saint Emperors glanced at each other before rushing into the corridor as well. Sovereign Yang's halberd had disappeared, so he definitely wasn't in the hall they were passing by. He was definitely in the hall behind them. The corridor was the only way. If Sovereign Yang's halberd was in the main hall, then he must have entered from the corridor. Otherwise, what was the point of this corridor? With 3 Saint Emperors leading the charge, the other Saint Emperors were tempted. With so many Saint Emperors, even if there was danger, they would be able to survive. If it was too dangerous, he could retreat and leave through the teleportation altar. The allure of Sovereign Yang's halberd quickly caused the other 2 Saint Emperors to charge forward. Ao was also somewhat tempted. He transmitted a message to Ao Chi. Ao Chi thought for a moment, then replied, You go. I'll stay here and guard your path of retreat. If you snatch Sovereign Yang's halberd, you must retreat immediately. My arrangements will allow us to leave this place earlier. All right. Aou's spirit was immediately lifted, and he quickly rushed toward the corridor. The other Saint Emperors could no longer sit still. Everyone had a heart of blind obedience. If no one dared to go, the others naturally wouldn't go. With the first, there would be a second. The other experts definitely couldn't sit still. They all had a certain level of confidence in themselves and believed that the runes here wouldn't be able to trap them. The corridor was now filled with black fog. One expert after another entered, but they were soon swallowed by the black fog. The remaining experts couldn't sit still. After a moment of silence, they all rushed in. Only Miss Li and the two desolate race elders were left, as well as Ao Chi, who was still in the process of breaking the seal. Miss Li opened her eyes. Although she was still recuperating, she was still paying attention to the situation outside. A group of experts had moved, and they were all going for Sovereign Yang's halberd. How could she not have any thoughts? If she hadn't gone up to grab Sovereign Yang's halberd, she definitely wouldn't have had any thoughts about it. But now, in her heart, Sovereign Yang's halberd was hers. Something that belonged to her was about to be snatched away by others. How could she sit still? She had only refined the divine medicine, and after recovering for a moment, she opened her eyes and said, "Come, let's go in and take a look." "Miss," a desolate race elder turned anxious and hurriedly said, "It's too dangerous inside. We can't go in. If we get trapped inside, it will be a big problem." "What can happen?" Miss Li said unhappily. "It's not like you don't know my defenses. Even if something happens, I can summon the Ancestor's soul avatar. With the Ancestor around, what's there to be afraid of? If we get trapped, the race will naturally send experts to rescue us." The desolate race elder thought about it, but he was speechless. The Ancestor of Prestige had given Miss Li a jade talisman. This jade talisman contained a wisp of the Ancestor of Prestige's soul avatar. Once it was crushed, the Ancestor of Prestige's soul avatar would descend. With the Ancestor of Prestige around, what could happen? Immediately, Miss Li rushed in with the two elders. Miss Li looked at the dark corridor and said with a firm tone, "No matter where Sovereign Yang's halberd is, I will take you down." Sovereign Yang's halberd was in the corridor, and it was in Lu Li's hands. Lu Li held the halberd of Sovereign Yang in his hand. His face was filled with joy as he caressed it. The halberd was very long, more than 10 feet long. It was dark red in color, and there were many gorgeous patterns on it. The halberd was very domineering and also very gorgeous. The thick smell of blood on it made Lu Li's blood boil. It was as if he could kill all enemies with the halberd. Naturally, it was because of the Tomb Keeper that he had obtained the halberd. The Tomb Keeper finally compromised. Lu Li settled for the next best thing. He asked the Tomb Keeper to send over all the treasures in the tomb of Emperor Yong. What the Tomb Keeper did not expect was that not only were countless materials and elixirs sent over, even the halberd of Sovereign Yong was sent over. "I've hit the jackpot this time." Lu Li beamed with joy. With a wave of his hand, the piles of materials and elixirs were put away. The materials filled up the corridor for at least a few hundred feet. If he sold them, he could probably buy the biggest mansion in the holy city of the realm of flying immortals. "All right, we can run now," Lu Li said to Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy sent a message to the Tomb Keeper to send us out directly from the tomb of Emperor Yong. Blood Fairy went to talk to the Tomb Keeper. However, what the Tomb Keeper said gave Lu Li a headache. The Tomb Keeper said that there were only 2 exits to the tomb of Emperor Yong. The first was the entrance they came in from, and the second was the teleportation altar in the hall. The Tomb Keeper could not send Lu Li to the 2 exits directly. The Tomb Keeper had to undo the runes on the corridor so that Lu Li could go to the hall. Lu Li was speechless. There were a bunch of Saint Emperors out in the corridor. Wasn't he walking right into a trap? Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3077. Clearly, Emperor Yong had made many agreements with the Tomb Keepers when he built the tomb. The tomb of Emperor Yong could not be destroyed. That must have been the most basic principle. Otherwise, what was the point of the Tomb Keeper's existence? Emperor Yong would not allow the place where he rested after his death to be completely destroyed. The Tomb Keeper could not actively kill the challengers, which Lu Li was sure of. Otherwise, Lu Li and Blood Fairy would have been killed by the Tomb Keeper. Lu Li was sure of these 2 facts. He was in an invincible position. That was why Lu Li was able to get the halberd of Emperor Yong so easily. He was lucky enough to get it from Lady Li. If he had been any later, the halberd of Emperor Yong would have been gone. Lu Li could walk out of the corridor easily. However, there was no exit. The tomb keeper could not teleport him out directly, which was a headache for Lu Li. Is the tomb keeper doing this on purpose? Is he trying to get back at me by not teleporting me out and sending me to my death? Lu Li thought of a possibility. After a moment, he asked Blood Fairy to send a message, urging the tomb watcher to teleport him out, or else the tomb of Emperor Yong would collapse. Lu Li's threat did not work. The tomb keeper said that Lu Li could not do anything even if he wanted the tomb to collapse. When the tomb was built, it was a whole. In other words, this was an independent small world. Lu Li only controlled some of the patterns in the tomb, not the entire small world. The corridor was closed with no exit. Lu Li had to go back the way he came. If he wanted to leave, he would have to go back to the hall. Lu Li pouted, but there was no other way. What could he do? He picked up the halberd of Emperor Yong and tried to put it away. However, the interspatial ring glowed. He could not put the halberd of Emperor Yong in, which surprised him. He thought about it and took out the holy mountain. He wanted to teleport it along with him. However, he could go in, but the halberd of Emperor Yong could not. It fell to the ground. He felt the halberd of Emperor Yong was trying to break free from his hand. This is strange. Lu Li dashed out. He picked up the halberd of Emperor Yong and studied it. After a while, he asked Blood Fairy to send a message to the tomb keeper. Soon he got the answer. The halberd of Emperor Yong was born with a spirit. Before it was taken control, it could not be put into an interspatial ring or an interspatial artifact. What? Lu Li was troubled. He could not carry the halberd of Emperor Yong around the world. Could he? Moreover, Sovereign Yong's halberd couldn't enter the Sage Mountain. If he encountered danger and entered the Sage Mountain, he could only abandon Sovereign Yong's halberd. If he held onto the Yong Emperor's halberd, his safety would not be guaranteed. He could only refine the Yong Huang halberd first. Lu Li sat on the ground with his legs crossed. He was not in a hurry. It had been a long time, and the powerful warriors from outside hadn't come in. Maybe they wouldn't come in any time soon. He poured a small amount of divine power into the halberd in an attempt to refine it. After refining it for an hour, he discovered that there were no changes, so he could only circulate his origin energy and try to refine it with it. This time, there was a reaction. However, Zhang Xian's reaction was extremely slow. Even after refining it for an hour, the Sovereign Yong halberd had only undergone a slight change. It would take at least 10 days to half a month for Zhang Xian to completely refine it. Lu Li asked Blood Fairy to keep an eye on the surroundings while he focused on controlling the halberd of Sovereign Yonder. There was no need to look at this divine weapon to know that it was a top-notch holy weapon. Once it was refined, its power would be extraordinary. Soon, several days passed. From the other end of the corridor, a group of powerful warriors were flying over. They seemed to be moving fast, but in fact, they were moving at a snail's pace. The corridor did have strong laws of time and space, which was the result of years of study by the tomb keepers. The corridor was not long. It was an independent space where the laws of time and space were different. Therefore, walking in the corridor seemed fast, but in fact it was very slow. The group of powerful warriors felt something was off as well. They were moving so fast. No matter how long the corridor was, they should have reached the end. This place is really strange. The patriarch of the wild race was solemn. He already sensed danger when they were outside. Now that they were inside, it was even more dangerous. It was not fatal, but it was possible that they would be trapped in here forever. Keep flying. I don't believe that the corridor is endless. Miss Li's complexion was still very pale, but her pretty face was filled with stubbornness. While swallowing medicinal pills, she continued to fly forward quickly. The other Saint Emperors did the same. They did not believe that the corridor was endless. They were moving so fast. How could they not reach the end? Soon, 10 days had passed. The group of Saint Emperors was dumbfounded. They had been flying for 10 days, but the corridor was still the same. It was as if they had always been at the same spot. Some saint emperors began to attack the walls on both sides, or try to decipher the patterns on the walls. However, it was pointless. The two saint emperors of the wild race were panicking. Only Lady Li did not panic. At most, she could ask the avatar of the Fuzu. To her, the Fuzu was omnipotent. Master, something is going on. Blood Fairy sensed the saint emperors were attacking the walls. Luli opened his eyes and groaned inwardly. Since there was something going on, there must be other saint emperors coming. The holy weapon was about to be taken control of. In 1 or 2 days at most, if he could enter the holy mountain, he could just let the holy mountain fly away. However, he could go in, but Emperor Yang's halberd could not. How far away are we? Luli asked. Blood Fairy tried to sense and replied, 1 or 2 days. I can't tell for sure. The space here is too strange. Okay, Luli thought about it and said, keep monitoring. At the same time, talk to the tomb keeper. Ask him to think of a way to keep those people away from me. Okay, Blood Fairy answered. Luli didn't care anymore. He focused on taking control of the holy weapon. Once the holy weapon was done, he could enter the holy mountain at any time. Not even the average saint emperors could compete with the holy mountain. The holy mountain was 10 times faster than sacred ancestor Yuan. Soon, 1 day passed. The saint emperors at the front were close to Luli. Blood Fairy sent a message in time, but Luli did nothing. The holy weapon was about to be taken control of. What? The saint emperor at the front casually scanned the area with his psychic power and easily found Luli. He stopped, and his eyes lit up. What is it? The second saint emperor stopped as well. He looked at the first saint emperor and used psychic power to check. Soon, he shouted, Emperor Yang's halberd. Emperor Yang's halberd is here. Why is it in the hands of a human? This saint emperor's voice caught the attention of many saint emperors and Lady Li. They used psychic power to check at once and locked on to Luli. This human bastard is here? A glint of killing intent rose in Aou's eyes. He was surprised. He could not understand why Luli had the halberd of Emperor Yang. Buzzing right at that moment, Luli's halberd of Emperor Yang glowed in red. A surge of horrifying energy spread out from the halberd. A surge of murderous intent filled an area with a radius of 300 miles. The halberd of Emperor Yang might have been a dead object before, but now it had come to life. Buzzing, the holy mountain glowed as well. Luli carried the halberd of Emperor Yang and dashed into the holy mountain. Then, in a blur, the holy mountain vanished into the dark haze in the corridor. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3078. It's him. Lady Li was surprised. She had a deep impression of Luli. Back at the Black Tortoise City, she asked Luli to buy a stock of elixir, but Luli refused. Later, because of Luli, the Shao demon came out and caused a stir. The incident at the Yin and Yang universe was because of Luli. The Red Dragon race and Gotham were after Luli, which shocked the Yin and Yang universe. Many things happened recently because of Luli. It was hard for Lady Li not to remember Luli. Now, the halberd of Sovereign Yang was in Luli's hands. Lady Li was enraged. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. Lady Li already had a bad impression of Luli. Now it was even worse. She had decided that the halberd of Sovereign Yang was hers. She had thought of bringing it back, being recognized and praised by the seniors of her race, and her fame would spread across the Infinite Star region. She had it all planned out. She was happy, but the halberd of Sovereign Yang was gone. Luli had taken it. How could she not be angry? It was as if her treasure was taken away by a beggar. Go after him. I want to kill him. Lady Li took another pellet to recover. She sped up to the top of her speed and chased after the 2 founding patriarchs of the wild race. Go. All the Saint Emperors were excited. If Lady Li had taken the halberd of Sovereign Yang, they would not be able to take it. Now, the halberd of Sovereign Yang had nothing to do with Lady Li. If they could get it, it would be inexcusable if Lady Li tried to take it. Luli, an Emperor Realm warrior, was no different from a puny insect to them. If they could catch up, Killing Lu Li would be a piece of cake. Once Lu Li was dead, the halberd of Sovereign Yong would be theirs. But none of the Saint Emperors, including Lady Li, could figure out how Lu Li got the halberd of Sovereign Yong. Lu Li never showed up in the hall. He never showed himself. How did the halberd of Sovereign Yong suddenly appear in Lu Li's hands? The group of Saint Emperors were all old farts. They had seen many things, but they had never heard of such a strange thing. The Saint Emperors sped up, but they had been chasing for an hour without seeing even a shadow of the Holy Mountain. The group of Saint Emperors could not figure out how Lu Li, an Emperor Realm warrior, could be so fast. Of course, Lu Li was fast. Holy Mountain was faster than the average Saint Emperor. The strongest here was AOU, but there was still a gap between AOU and Holy Mountain. The halberd of Emperor Yong was taken control of, but Lu Li was not happy at all. Because the matter of him obtaining the Yong Emperor halberd was exposed, the group of Saint Emperors all knew that he had obtained the Yong Emperor halberd. Even if he managed to escape, the news would quickly spread throughout Infinite Region. He would become a street rat and be hunted down by all the experts in Infinite Region. Could it be that the Tomb Keeper did it on purpose? A thought came to Lu Li's mind. Was this a conspiracy of the Tomb Keepers? Because of the agreement with Emperor Yong, the Tomb Keeper could not kill him directly. So he used a borrowed knife to kill him, purposely letting a group of Saint Emperors know that he had obtained the halberd of Emperor Yong so that he could borrow the strength of a group of Saint Emperors to kill him? Very likely. A glint of coldness rose in Lu Li's eyes. The Tomb Watcher could send countless materials and Emperor Yong's halberd over. How could he not be able to send Lu Li away? At the very least, it should be easy for the Tomb Watcher to send Lu Li to the entrance. Such a huge pile of divine materials could be directly teleported over, but not a single person? Lu Li did not believe it. The more he thought about it, the more he believed this was a conspiracy. The Tomb Watcher was setting him up. After a while, Lu Li flew the Holy Mountain forward. 2 hours later, he stopped the Holy Mountain and gave an order to Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy, go down and release your rhythm. Mess up the tomb of Emperor Yong. Don't mind him, even if the tomb of Emperor Yong is going to collapse. Do not stop until the Tomb Watcher sends us to the entrance. Okay. Blood Fairy carried out Lu Li's order to the letter without any doubt. She went in at once and began to use her rhythm to control the patterns in the tomb of Emperor Yong. Boom, 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 the patterns in the halls were glowing. Many of them were messed up. The entire tomb of Emperor Yong seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Even the divine inscriptions in the hallway were flashing incessantly, giving the Saint Emperors chasing after them a fright. The Tomb Watcher kept sending messages, but Blood Fairy paid no attention to him. She said coldly that if they could not be sent out, then she would destroy the tomb of Emperor Yong. The Tomb Watcher said that he could not do that. He had to find a way to get rid of the pursuers and let them out. Blood Fairy was a stubborn girl. She did not even ask Lu Li. She continued to control the patterns with her rhythm to mess up the patterns. All right, in the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, the Tomb Watcher could not stand it anymore. He said, "Okay, I will modify the patterns and send you to the entrance. Stop right now." "Okay," Blood Fairy told Lu Li. He nodded and teleported Blood Fairy back into his body. He put away the Holy Mountain and was ready to teleport out. Even though he could leave, he was not in a good mood. Leaving did not mean that he would be safe. He believed that soon, all the powerful warriors in the entire region of Infinite Star would hunt him down. He must find a way to escape, or he would die for sure. The only fortunate thing was that he had learned the skill of transfiguration. With this skill, he could take the appearance of any race and hide. If he could learn the skill of cloaking and the swift, then his chances of escaping would be greatly increased. When I get out, I must fly away and find a way to hide. I must master the skill of cloaking first. Lu Li made up his mind. Time moved on. An hour later, the Tomb Watcher sent back a message, telling Lu Li to keep flying and he would be teleported to the entrance. Lu Li flew on the Holy Mountain at once. In an hour, he had reached the end. At the end, there was a ring of light. Lu Li came out from the Holy Mountain. He checked, and then dashed into the ring of light. After a flash of white light, he appeared in the cave he came from. This time, the tomb watcher did not lie to him. He was teleported to the cave. Wait! At that moment, Lu Li suddenly realized that he had been tricked by the tomb watcher again. The tomb watcher could modify the patterns and teleport Lu Li here. Then why didn't it just teleport Lu Li here? Why did it create a portal? It was to make it easier for the warriors chasing after him to come out from the portal. The tomb watcher would not be satisfied until Lu Li was dead. That being said, it was understandable. The tomb watcher had to give Lu Li all the treasures under Lu Li's coercion. Many halls in the tomb of Emperor Yong were destroyed. The tomb watcher must be enraged. It was not unusual for him to seek revenge. Never mind. Let's go. Lu Li snuck into the holy mountain and flew out in a blur. He did not hide his tracks. He flew on like crazy. A group of Saint Emperors would come out soon. He must get away before they could catch up with him. There were still many warriors on the Skeleton Mountain, including some Saint Emperors who stayed behind. Naturally, the holy mountain alarmed many warriors and warriors as it dashed out. Unfortunately, the holy mountain was too fast. Many warriors could not see it clearly before it was gone. Two Saint Emperors tried to go after it, but they were too slow. An hour later, the holy mountain flew out of the Skeleton Mountain. Lu Li did not choose to fly to the distance. Instead, under the watchful eyes of many warriors, he flew up into the sky. It seemed he was ready to leave the Yin and Yang universe. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's mobile version. Chapter 3079. Buzzing, groups of powerful warriors swarmed out from the cave. When they arrived at the cave, they were all stunned. After a moment, many Saint Kings flew out to track Lu Li. Lady Li and Aou came out as well. They did not linger. Aou crushed a jade talisman. Without waiting for Aou Chi, he began to search around. Killing Lu Li was a task given by the Cauldron Sovereign. Now was the right time. Everything would be perfect if Lu Li was killed. It is a pity that Goen is dead. Aou felt sorry. Goen was much better at tracking, but it was pointless to say anything now. Aou had to rush out. Go after him. Lady Li waved her hand and rushed out with two founding patriarchs. The group of Saint Emperors seemed to have been injected with chicken blood as they searched everywhere. Soon, they learned where Lu Li had gone from nearby warriors. Soon, all the Saint Kings flew out of the void. Messages were sent out one after another. Soon, countless soldiers were mobilized and flew out of the void in a frenzy. At the same time, a series of messages were quickly transmitted to all the realms in all directions. Many families of the Yin and Yang universe were not here. They sent messages back to their headquarters, asking them to mobilize powerful warriors to hunt down Lu Li. Since there were so many families in the Yin and Yang universe, the news could not be kept a secret. Therefore, after the news spread out in the Yin and Yang universe, it spread across the entire star region of Infinite Star as well. A human great emperor took the halberd of Sovereign Yong and was running away. Naturally, such a piece of shocking news attracted the attention of many races. After all, the halberd of Sovereign Yong was so famous. How could a human great emperor take it? If they could find the human great emperor and kill him, the halberd of Sovereign Yong would be theirs. What was more, many people were surprised. Naturally, the halberd of Sovereign Yong was in the tomb of Emperor Yong. So many Saint Kings went in, and it was taken by a human great emperor? Wasn't this a joke? What kind of secrets were hidden in this? Many powerful warriors began to move. Many founding patriarchs of the 33 races nearby came to fight for the halberd of Sovereign Yong. Many warriors were coming as well. The void around the Yin and Yang universe was bustling with noise and excitement. It was even livelier than when they were hunting Xiao Mo. Last time, Lu Li did not gain anything from the Xiao demon. But this time, he had the halberd of Emperor Yong, a top-level holy weapon. Most importantly, Emperor Yong's halberd was engraved with the true meaning of time and space, which was extremely rare. When unleashing a killer move, the laws of time and space would be released together, which was extremely terrifying. The dozens of Saint Emperors and Miss Li immediately rushed out, but there was nothing outside the void. Aou also contacted the Tiango clan, who were hiding outside, to search everywhere. After 3 days of searching, all the powerful warriors were dumbfounded. They came to the same conclusion. Lu Li had vanished from the face of the earth. There were so many powerful warriors, more than 100,000 warriors and warriors from other nearby armies. Lu Li was not going to be able to fly or burrow into the ground when all of them were surrounding him. In the void, countless warships shuttled back and forth, and countless more warships flew over. Aou had sent a message back, and countless cultivators and troops of the Red Dragon clan were also rushing over. Miss Li had also transmitted the message to the Desolate race. The Desolate race had also sent some experts and troops over. Recently, the Yin and Yang universe had become unprecedentedly lively. Lu Li, an insignificant human being, had attracted many people's attention. Of course, more powerful warriors were not concerned about Lu Li, but Emperor Yang's halberd. 10 days. After searching for 10 days, they still could not find him. There was not even a trace of him. Miss Li and many families of the Yin and Yang universe had their eyes on the Yin and Yang universe. There was no one outside. Lu Li could not have vanished into thin air. The only possibility was that Lu Li had never come out. He was hiding in the Yin and Yang universe. Many families of the Yin and Yang universe began to send secret messages back, asking those in the Yin and Yang universe to start searching quietly. They continued to pretend to search outside. The powerful warriors of the Yin and Yang universe did not go into search, but Miss Li suggested it. The powerful warriors of the Yin and Yang universe wanted to refuse, but seeing Miss Li's gloomy face, the group of Saint Emperors did not dare to say anything. Miss Li did not seem to have a good temper, and she was bound to become the most powerful warrior of the Desolate race in the future. The most powerful warrior of the Desolate race was the most powerful warrior of the entire star region of Infinite Star Region. If they offended Miss Li, they would not have a good time in the future. Therefore, after some discussion, they decided to let Miss Li go in. How many powerful warriors could Miss Li bring in? The Yin and Yang universe was huge. If the few powerful warriors of the Desolate race were to enter, it would be like a few drops of water in the sea. There were so many families, and they could mobilize hundreds of millions of scouts. Almost every city had scouts. If there were unfamiliar humans, they would be able to recognize them easily. There were not many humans in the Yin and Yang universe. Miss Li brought 2 Desolate race elders and flew towards the Yin and Yang universe. The Desolate race had also sent powerful warriors over, but they would not arrive so quickly. It would take at least a month. The Yin and Yang universe began to bustle. All the big and small family clans were mobilized. They began to search the entire world for a hidden human. Every human's identity had to be confirmed. If they had never lived in the Yin and Yang universe before and did not know anything about them, they would be focused on and might even be captured. In addition, it was not only the human race. All the unfamiliar Emperor-level warriors in the big and small cities would also be noticed. The current situation was that whoever found Lu Li first would get Emperor Yang's halberd. However, hundreds of millions of scouts and soldiers searched all the cities, but to no avail. They captured quite a number of humans and unfamiliar warriors, but none of them were Lu Li. If there was no one in the cities, then they would have to search outside the cities in the wilderness. Countless scouts and powerful warriors began to leave the cities and search the Yin and Yang universe. Many mountains and wilderness were filled with the figures of scouts. Soon, 3 months had passed. Something that made countless powerful warriors dumbfounded happened. Be it outside or inside the Yin and Yang universe, Lu Li could not be found. It was as if Lu Li had vanished into thin air or had teleported away from the vicinity. Aou and Ao Chi, who had already come out, were worried. They suspected that Lu Li had successfully cultivated Xiao Mo's skill of transfiguration. Goen had said before that Lu Li might have cultivated Xiao Mo's skill of transfiguration. If he had really succeeded, then it would be difficult to find Lu Li. Back then, how many families wanted to kill Xiao Mo? If it were not for ancestor Fu, they might not have found him. In 3 months, so many powerful warriors and armies had been mobilized, but they still could not find Lu Li. Then, the possibility of finding Lu Li was very low. Many old demons had given up. They were still circling around because they wanted to watch the show and see Lu Li make a fool of himself. The news of Go and's death had spread. The Heavenly Hound race was enraged. Patriarchs of Hall of Warfare had come with many powerful warriors. So did many patriarchs of the Desolate race. Soon, there would be a good show. Lu Li, the name of that human, was confirmed. His portrait was drawn and pasted all over the cities of the Yin and Yang universe. Many scouts and warriors had Lu Li's portrait. Regardless of the outcome, Lu Li had made a name for himself in the desolate region of universe. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3080. Lu Li was in the Yin and Yang universe. But he was not in a city or in the wild. He was in a land of resources. This was a treasure land of resources, a treasure land of a big race. There were many slaves in this treasure land, and Lu Li was one of them. Using the skill of transfiguration, he could change his appearance and realm. When Lu Li rushed out from the Skeleton Mountain, he pretended to fly up. As a matter of fact, he had planned to hide in the Yin and Yang universe. What was he going to do in the void? It was empty, and he would be discovered easily. It would be fine if he had mastered the stealth skill. Therefore, he had to hide in the Yin and Yang universe and find a place to cultivate. Once he mastered the stealth skill, he could run away. At first, he wanted to go to a city because he could change his appearance and realm at will. He could teleport away constantly and find a small city to hide in. After flying for half a day, he found a good place to hide. The slaves in a land of resources belonging to a major race were rioting. That race was suppressing the slaves with iron and blood. Many slaves were taken back. How could Lu Li miss such a good chance? Therefore, he disguised himself as a dwarf and changed into the clothes of a dead body. He pretended to be at the peak of the fourth tribulation and was taken back by the major family easily. After he was captured, he was imprisoned together with a group of slaves. He was also poisoned. An expert of this large clan came in and released a poisonous mist, poisoning the slaves inside to death. Lu Li could have easily withstood the poison, but not only did he not, but he also absorbed more poison than the other slaves. As a result, he also suffered inhuman pain. At this moment, he seemed to be on the verge of death as he lay in the cell. Some of the slaves nearby had died. Their bodies began to stink. Many slaves were rolling around on the ground in pain and scratching themselves. The underground cell was like hell. The more it was like this, the happier Lu Li was. Who could tell that he was hiding here? As long as nobody could track him down, he would be safe. He was lying in a corner. He seemed to be on the verge of death. He could not move at all. That being said, he was secretly studying the stealth skill. He was praying that he could stay here for a while longer. When he mastered the stealth skill, he would be able to conquer the world. This was a canyon called the Earth Dragon Canyon. There were many mines in the canyon, and there was a kind of crystal stone underground. Although it was not particularly precious, there was a lot of it. The Yin and Yang universe was bustling with activity. All the families were searching for Lu Li. However, there was a slave rebellion here. The leader of this place was a peak overlord. He was very angry. Half of the slaves that escaped were killed, and the remaining half were locked up and tortured. The Saint Emperor did not dare to report this matter. At this moment, the clan was busy. If he reported this matter, he would appear very incompetent in the eyes of the upper echelons. Therefore, he ordered the army to collect all the corpses outside and activated the Grand Array in the canyon to seal off the area. He decided to wait until this incident was over before reporting to the higher-ups. Their race was called the U-Race. They sent an order to the peak of the Great Emperor Realm to check the surroundings and see if there was any trace of Lu Li. This peak Emperor-ranked warrior carried out the order of his race. However, most of the slaves here were from the dwarf race. There were no so-called humans, so he didn't care. Luli stayed in the underground prison for 3 months. He did not know that there were hundreds of millions of warriors and powerful warriors searching for him outside and in the void. He cultivated in the prison, having a good time. But today his good days had come to an end. All the slaves were driven out, and they had to go back to mining. This time, there were military supervision, which made it impossible for Luli to cultivate. It was difficult to dig out the ores. The rocks underground were hard. If Luli could show his abilities, he could grab the ores easily. However, he only showed that he was at the peak of the fourth tribulation. Naturally, mining became more difficult. There were military patrols nearby. Luli and the others had a work day and night. Luli had no other choice. He had to live a simple life and wait for the storm to blow over. Lady Li and the others went to the yin and yang universe, but they didn't think it was meaningful. The yin and yang universe was a large place. How could she and the 2 patriarchs find it? How? Hundreds of millions of warriors have been searching for him, and they couldn't find him. How could they find him just by wandering around? Outside in the void, a powerful patriarch of the wild race came with a team. He wanted to mobilize an army, but only 5 patriarchs came. But the 5 patriarchs were powerful. They were famous warriors of the barren universe. The 5 patriarchs were not here to track down Luli. They were here to stabilize the situation. Many powerful warriors of the Heavenly Hound race came. Goen's death infuriated the Heavenly Hound race. They were one of the 33 races. How could a patriarch of their race die for no reason? Their race needed an explanation. As the overlord of the barren universe, the wild race saw the barren universe as their backyard. They would not allow their backyard to be in chaos. Therefore, they sent some powerful warriors over. Firstly, to intimidate, and secondly, to mediate the conflict and appease both sides. The races of the yin and yang universe did not panic at all. There were so many smaller races in the yin and yang universe. They were not afraid of the Heavenly Hound race. The Heavenly Hound race's tracking skills were unparalleled in the world, but their combat abilities were not particularly famous in the barren universe. Besides, they were not in the wrong. Even if they fought, they were in the right. The Heavenly Hound race arrived outside the yin and yang universe. They were not in a hurry to attack. That was because the powerful warriors of the wild race had arrived long ago. They had intercepted the Heavenly Hound warriors. A powerful patriarch of the wild race personally went to the battle patriarch of the Heavenly Hound race and handed him the seal stone that had been recorded. Actually, the Heavenly Hound race already knew the truth. As one of the 33 races, they had to do something about the death of a patriarch. It would make the other races of the barren universe look down on them. Therefore, when the battle patriarch of the Heavenly Hound race, Lu, saw the seal stone, he did not buy it. He said that if the races did not give him an explanation, they could not enter the yin and yang universe. However, they would attack the races that had killed Goen. This did not violate the agreement of the 33 races. The wild race could not interfere. These races not only had territory in the yin and yang universe, they also occupied other realms. Golu's intentions were clear. If they did not give the Heavenly Hound race a way out, they would have to fight a losing battle. Regardless of the outcome, they had to let all the races in the barren universe know that the Heavenly Hound race was not to be trifled with. Their patriarchs were not to be easily killed. When the desolate race patriarch passed on the Heavenly Hound race's intentions, the 12 races in the yin and yang universe were indignant. Goen had broken the rules by entering the yin and yang universe for no reason. Goen had said that he had left the Heavenly Hound race, but had nothing to do with the Heavenly Hound race. Now that the Heavenly Hound race had come knocking on their door, did they really think that they were afraid? Usually, these large races were often bullied by the 33 races. Now that they finally had a legitimate opportunity, they naturally wanted to fight the Heavenly Hound race. The 12 race leaders discussed and formed an alliance on the same day. They announced that there was no explanation. If the Heavenly Hound race wanted to fight, they would fight. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3081. The attitude of the 12 races placed the desolate race in a difficult position. It also made Elder Chi, who was leading the desolate race team, very vexed. He felt that he had lost a lot of face. He was here to mediate, but neither side seemed to give him any face. If the desolate race's Elder Chi was angry, he definitely had to do something or no one would know that he was angry. He gathered the representatives of the 12 clans and the Tiango clan together and asked one thing. Could they have a proper discussion? There was no room for discussion. If there was a need to fight, the desolate race would intervene in the war depending on the situation. With just one sentence from Grand Elder Chi, the Tiango tribe and the 12 tribes immediately cowered. Elder Chi was acting like a hooligan. He had directly used his trump card. With the desolate race involved in the war, which race in the entire infinite desolate star domain could withstand it? This was a matter between the Tiango race and the 12 large races. What did it have to do with the desolate race? However, the Tiango race and the 12 large races did not dare say a word. The desolate race had always been domineering, but they had the capital to be domineering. In the infinite desolate star region, they were the only ones bullying others. No other race dared to bully them. Since they couldn't fight, they could only talk. The Heavenly Hound tribe needed face, and the 12 ancient clans couldn't be too obnoxious. They couldn't possibly ask the 12 ancient clans to compensate the Heavenly Hound tribe, right? The 12 races definitely wouldn't do it, as it would make them lose face. In the end, Patriarch Chi gave a suggestion, which was to let the Heavenly Hound race into the Yin and Yang universe to track Lu Li. If they could capture Lu Li, then the halberd of Emperor Yong would belong to the Heavenly Dog race. If he couldn't give them face, he could only give them something in return. If the Tiango tribe could take down the Yong sovereign's halberd, they would be able to gain some face as well as some losses. It wouldn't be a bad thing if the news got out. The Tiango tribe had no objections. Goen was in the wrong this time, and they just needed a way out of this embarrassing situation. The 12 alien races were not convinced, but they had been searching for Lu Li for a long time without finding him. The Heavenly Hound race was good at tracking. If the Heavenly Hound race could go in and find Lu Li, they could save some face. After all, Lu Li was just a warrior of the Emperor realm. It was shameful that the 12 alien races could not find him after sending out so many warriors. Something's wrong. Go Lu frowned and asked, what if that human brat isn't in the yin-yang realm? Didn't we look for him for nothing? Here, Elder Chi said with certainty, before I came, I asked Ancestor Fu, and he gave me a very definite answer. That human brat is in the yin-yang world. During this period of time, the outside has been sealed, so it's impossible for that brat to escape. As for whether or not you can find him, that will depend on your Tiango clan's abilities. All right, Go Lu shouted. As long as Lu Li was in the Yin and Yang universe, they would be able to find him. The Heavenly Dog clan's tracking technique was unparalleled in the world. This was not just for show. This time, the Tiango clan had sent so many troops and experts into the yin-yang world. It would be easy for them to find a human. Elder Chi, one of the 12 patriarchs, said, if we find that human boy first, then this young Emperor halberd will be ours, right? The Tiango clan couldn't find it, but we found it. Are we going to give it to them? Of course. Senior Elder Chi nodded slightly and said, let's rely on our own abilities. Go Lu, your race's tracking skills are very powerful. If they find you first, then it will be your incompetence. You cannot blame them. Oomph. Go Lu snorted and said, they have been searching for 3 months and still haven't found him. Even if we give them another 30 years, they won't be able to find him. There is nothing to say. Let's rely on our own abilities. Okay, it's a deal. Senior Elder Chi smiled in satisfaction and said, this old man will say one more thing. Control your subordinates and do not start a fight in the yin-yang realm. This old man will personally enter as well. This old man will definitely not be polite to whichever side attacks first. With Patriarch Chi's forceful mediation, a war that was about to break out was averted. More than a dozen senior patriarchs of the Tiango race and thousands of warriors entered the Yin and Yang universe. They spread out to search for Lu Li. When the patriarchs of the 12 alien races went back, they mobilized and assigned tasks to their subordinates to search every corner. Since Ancestor Fu said that Lu Li was in the yin and yang universe, then he must be there. Therefore, they must find Lu Li and find him before the Tiango race did. Right at that moment, the Red Dragon race wanted to get involved as well. Cauldron King of the Red Dragon race came in person, but he was not here for the halberd of Emperor Yong. He only wanted Lu Li's body. He had reached an agreement with the patriarchs of the 12 alien races to mobilize tens of thousands of elite scouts of the Red Dragon race to help the 12 alien races search for Lu Li. When Lu Li was found, Emperor Yong's halberd would be handed over to the 12 alien races, but Lu Li would be given to him. Of course, the 12 alien races were happy to do so. They were not interested in Lu Li. An Emperor Realm warrior could be killed by anyone. Since Cauldron King had come in person, they had to show respect. The entire yin and yang universe was in chaos. The 12 alien races offered a huge reward. Anyone who could provide clues would be rewarded handsomely. There was a long list of treasures. The entire yin and yang universe was under martial law. Everyone was looking for a human. Almost all the humans in the yin and yang universe were under control. Whether it was Lu Li or not, they would be controlled and investigated one by one. The records of the Emperor Realm warriors of the yin and yang universe began. All the Emperor Realm warriors were numbered and screened one by one. This was the stupidest method, but it was the most effective. They could be eliminated one by one. In the wild, they would do a carpet search and cross-search to make sure there were no blind spots. All the places of danger were guarded by powerful warriors in case Lu Li sneaked in. Thousands of the Heavenly Hound race scattered into the yin and yang universe. Like mud flowing into the sea, they all disappeared. They were looking for all possible clues, like bugs hibernating in the sewers. They did not let go of any place. The Valley of Earth Dragons of the U race was not missed. Instead, the Heavenly Hound race found this place soon because it was not far from the Mountain of Bones. When Lu Li came out, there was a riot among the slaves here. When the Heavenly Hound race learned of this, a patriarch came in person. He searched all the slaves in the mines, but found nothing. No matter how one looked at him, Lu Li was no different from a dwarf. He was a pure dwarf. He even stood in front of the patriarch of the Heavenly Hound race, but the patriarch did not notice anything. Xiao Mo's skill of transfiguration was miraculous. Of course, if it were not for this skill, Xiao Mo would have been killed, and he would not have become the most powerful warrior in the underground world. After the patriarch left, cold sweat broke out on Lu Li's forehead. He did not know what was going on outside, but the fact that the patriarch of the Heavenly Hound race could find his way here spoke volumes. Lu Li put his mind at ease after the patriarch left. If the Heavenly Hound race could not find him, then no other race could track him down. He was right. Not long afterward, a patriarch of the U race came as well. He checked again and found nothing wrong. Lu Li got away with it easily. At first, he wanted to be a slave, and he did not have much time to cultivate. He wanted to find a chance to leave and find a place to hide. After the patriarchs of the Heavenly Hound race and the U race came, Lu Li decided to stay here for a couple of years. He could leave when the limelight died down. He could stay here and try to learn the art of concealment. By then, he could go anywhere in the world. P.S. The Yuan Group, the website that the old monster was on, is holding an annual meeting. There have been too many meetings these days, so the updates are not stable. On the 8th, he went back and filled in the chapters for the past few days. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3082. 1 year. It had been a year. The yin and yang universe had been turned upside down. Hundreds of millions of warriors and scouts, as well as tens of thousands from the Heavenly Hound race and Red Dragon race, could not find Lu Li. Lady Li was disappointed, and the Heavenly Hound race and Red Dragon race were humiliated. The 12 major races of the yin and yang universe were furious. Fuzu would not lie to them. The void had been sealed off by warriors. Lu Li must still be in the yin and yang universe. But they could not find him. This was a failure. Another Shao demon had come. This was the consensus of the entire star region of Infinite Star. Luli might have inherited several powerful skills from the Shao demon. This fact was well reported. Otherwise, he could not have escaped the detection of so many powerful warriors and scouts. The Yin and Yang universe was a large place, but this time it was a national search. The entire Yin and Yang universe was on the move. The reward offered by the 12 major races was generous. Therefore, if it were not for the fact that Luli had cultivated skill of transfiguration, he would have been identified as a human being and as an emperor. The Ur Dragon Valley, where Luli was searched for 5 times. Powerful warriors of the Red Dragon race, the 12 major races, and another patriarch of the Heavenly Hound race were here as well. Luli had not been discovered since the beginning. Many slaves were killed during the last slave riot. Therefore, the number of surviving slaves was unknown. The commander in the Earth Dragon Gorge also checked, but did not find anything. It had been a year, but Lady Li, the Red Dragon race, the Heavenly Hound race, and the 12 major races of the Yin and Yang universe had not given up. Of course, the search was less intensive. Warriors of the Yin and Yang universe had given up. The reward was high, but they could not afford to waste their time. During the year, Luli had made some progress in the art of concealment. If he could focus on cultivation under the sacred tree on the holy mountain, he would have learned it a long time ago. Luli did not mind. As long as he could not be found, he could cultivate for a few years. He had mastered some skills. When he was mining underground, he pretended to be mining mechanically. But in fact, he was multitasking and studying in secret. Blood Fairy would monitor the surroundings for him and alert him if any warriors came. Inside the canyon, the Moon Clan's army was no longer as strict with the slave surveillance. After killing so many slaves last time, these slaves had all become more obedient. The slaves had lost all hope as well. They had become the walking dead, which made things easier for Luli. Otherwise, if the dwarfs came to talk to him every day, Luli would give himself away. Of course, some dwarfs went to Luli as well. But Luli pretended to be an idiot and never said a word. His eyes and his face were numb, as if he had suffered a great blow. The other dwarfs didn't talk to him either. Bang, bang, bang. Luli had a pickaxe in his hand. He kept swinging it, digging up the hard stones one by one, trying to find a dark purple crystal. Even though his eyes were open, his mind had been wandering away, concentrating on his comprehension. The places he chose to mine were all in the corners, so there were no dwarves nearby. It didn't matter where they dug or how they dug, as long as they handed in a certain amount of crystal stones every month. If the first time wasn't enough, he would be punished, and if it was the second time, he would be killed. Give me another half a year, and I should be able to do it. Half a day later, Luli stopped and sat down to rest. He spat out an interspatial ring from his mouth, took out some food, and closed his eyes to rest. The art of concealment was going well. He could go invisible now. That being said, the average Emperor Realm warriors could sense him. He believed he could master it in about half a year. No, in the Yin and Yang city, Lady Li could not sit still. She had been sitting here for a year, but she felt it had been more than a decade. She couldn't search, and she couldn't cultivate in peace. She felt as if every day here was like a year. She walked around in the palace, made up her mind, and said to a patriarch, "I want to go back to the flying immortal city." Okay. The Grand Elder's face revealed a trace of joy. Had this grand aunt finally decided to go back? Even though nobody dared to kill Lady Li, the Yin and Yang world was a complicated place. It was safer to go back to the desolate race's territory. "I want to go to our forefather," Lady Li said with determination. "I will ask our forefather to calculate Li's exact location. I must find him." The desolate race's patriarch looked embarrassed. He had troubled Ancestor Fu twice for such a small matter. This time, he wanted Ancestor Fu to calculate Li's exact location. This would require a lot of Ancestor Fu's energy. If it wasn't for Lady Li, who would dare to ask Ancestor Fu? Lady Li was a girl that Ancestor Fu liked very much. If she begged and acted coquettishly, Ancestor Fu might waste some energy to help her calculate. If it was anyone else, Ancestor Fu would probably slap them to death. Lady Li knew that Ancestor Fu would need a lot of energy to calculate Lu Li's exact location, but she could not stand it. As long as Lu Li was alive, she would feel a burning pain on her face. For the past year, Lu Li's despicable face would constantly appear in her mind. It was driving her crazy. Humans strive for dignity, Buddhas strive for incense. To Lady Li, she did not care about treasures. She did not even desire the young emperor's halberd. Even if she obtained it, she would hand it over to her family clan. What she wanted was to prove herself. She was smug and ready to show off. Now that she was about to get it, she was intercepted. No one would be able to stand it. Not to mention Lady Li was a proud daughter of heaven. Women were always narrow-minded. Lady Li had never been treated like this in her life. Therefore, even though she knew this request was a little too much, she was prepared to be willful. 2 hours later, Lady Li brought the two desolate races' patriarchs to the Yin and Yang world space-time portal and went to the nearby big world. Then, they continued to use the space-time portal to teleport to the flying celestial world. Lady Li had enough influence. Using the space-time portal was much faster. This place was quite far from the flying celestial world. If they took a battleship, it would take at least a year to go back and forth. Using the space-time portal, it would only take 2 months. 2 months later, Lady Li appeared in the holy city of the flying celestial world. She did not even bother to rest or tidy up her appearance. She went straight to Ancestor Fu's palace. "Girl, you are back." When Ancestor Fu saw Lady Li enter, his old bark-like face revealed a benevolent smile. He nodded slightly and said, "You are a little later than I expected. Not bad, you have improved a little. You have become more composed. This time, you know that there's always someone better out there, right? Amir the Arch has managed to fool all of you. This matter is quite interesting." Lady Li never expected Ancestor Fu to have predicted everything. Her eyes turned red as tears nearly fell. She said aggrievedly, "Ancestor, are you just going to watch Lear get bullied by that despicable human? Why didn't you help me earlier? Lear is about to become a joke. Ancestor, quickly help me calculate where that despicable human is. I must find him and cut him into pieces." Ha ha ha. Ancestor Fu laughed out loud and shook his head. "I just praise you for being more mature, but you're still so childish. I can help you this time, but I suggest that even if you find him, it's best you don't kill him. If possible, it's best you befriend him." Befriend? Lady Li thought that she had heard wrongly. Her eyes widened as she exclaimed, "Me? Befriend Amir the Arch of the human race? Ancestor, you're not joking, right?" "No," Ancestor Fu said very seriously. "Before you came back, I had already calculated his approximate location. Apart from calculating his location, I also sensed that this person's fate is very special. If it is not necessary, do not make him an enemy. P.S. Normal updates will resume tomorrow. Please remember this book's original domain name. Third Sect Masters mobile version. Chapter 3083. Ancestor Fu's words were very mysterious. But Ancestor Fu was not only a god in Miss Li's eyes, he was a supreme god in the hearts of the entire desolate race. His words were believed by everyone in the desolate race, and they were treated as divine decrees. Hence, Miss Li still believed in Ancestor Fu's words. She paused and could not help but ask, "Ancestor, I still don't understand. So what if his life is special? So what if he is a person blessed by Providence? Taking 10,000 steps back, so what if he is cultivated to your current realm? As the overlord of the desolate race, why would we deliberately befriend him? He is only at the Emperor realm now. How many years would he need to cultivate to the sacred Emperor realm?" Miss Li's analysis was very objective. She did not add fuel to the fire because of her disgust for Lu Li. If it were anyone else, they would probably have the same thoughts as Miss Li. Unknowable, unspeakable, unfathomable. Ancestor Fu said mysteriously before waving his hand, "He is in a valley in the yin-yang world. There are many slaves in that valley, so he should have mastered the divine transfiguration technique. Emperor Yang's halberd is actually nothing. You can decide what to do. If you're determined to kill him, then you must make arrangements. You absolutely cannot let him escape, understand? I understand. Thank you, ancestor. Miss Li bowed and turned to walk out. She did not rest, as she immediately teleported to the yin-yang world with the two doyens. Ancestor Fu closed his eyes and pondered for a moment. After a while, he muttered, "Blessings are accompanied by disasters, and disasters are accompanied by blessings. Lier, whether this is a blessing or a curse will depend on your luck." Although Miss Li was the first to teleport there, she was feeling very conflicted. Ancestor Fu's words made her unable to make up her mind. Should she kill Lu Li or just snatch Emperor Yang's halberd? Although she was a top daughter of a large race, it was not that Miss Li's hands had never been stained with blood. In fact, she had been stained with a lot of blood. The desolate race had sent out their younger generation many times in the past. The elders in the race had allowed them to kill other warriors when they were very young, so they did not have any qualms about killing. Ever since they were young, they had been taught that the desolate race absolutely could not be soft-hearted. This was because the desolate race was the overlord of this star domain. They needed to be ruthless in order to intimidate the other large races. Lady Li didn't feel any pressure killing Lu Lily, but Fu Zhu's words put a lot of pressure on her. If it wasn't a special situation, Fu Zhu would definitely not say anything. In Fu Zhu's eyes, let alone emperor rank, he didn't even put Xiao Mo in his eyes. Even a perfected sacred emperor was not feared by the desolate race, because the desolate race also had experts at that level. Let's go there first. Lady Li thought about it. She couldn't make up her mind. She had better find Lu Li first. If Lu Li was sensible enough to give her the halberd of Emperor Yang with a good attitude, then she wouldn't mind sparing his life. By the time she arrived at the yin-yang world with the two Saint Emperors, almost half a year had passed. After half a year, the yin and yang universe, the Heavenly Hound, and the Red Dragon still could not find Lu Li. The Heavenly Hound felt humiliated. If they couldn't find Lu Li after such a long time, they wouldn't be able to find him even if they searched for another 100 years. Cauldron Emperor felt humiliated as well. Who was he? He was a man of his word. Since he had promised Sacred Ancestor Yuan, he would do everything he could to fulfill his promise, even if he had to pay a heavy price. They had already paid a heavy price. Cauldron Emperor came in person, but he found nothing. Cauldron Emperor was humiliated and angry. The thing was, being angry was pointless. If they couldn't find Lu Li, he couldn't destroy the yin and yang universe. Even if he wanted to, Cauldron Emperor didn't have the ability. The yin and yang universe was a stable super universe. Lady Li teleported to the city of perpetual peace. As soon as she came out, she found a family patriarch in the city and asked, "Family Patriarch Chu, how many canyons are there in the yin and yang universe? How many places have canyons and slaves?" Family Patriarch Chu was puzzled. Why was Lady Li asking this? Lady Li had disappeared for half a year, and now she was back. Why was she asking this when she hadn't even warmed her seat? But Lady Li was a young lady of the desolate race after all. He didn't dare to slight her. He looked at a patriarch who said after a moment, "There are many canyons of various sizes. I think there are hundreds of them. If there are slaves, it means there are veins in the canyons. There should be more than a dozen canyons with veins." "A dozen?" Lady Li nodded and said, "Can you help me mark all the veins on the map?" Family Patriarch Chu finally came to his senses. He asked seriously, "Lady Li, did you get some clues? Is that human in the canyons?" "I am just suspecting." Lady Li didn't reveal anything. She said, "Family Patriarch Chu, don't worry about it. Mark it for me. I will look for him. If I can find him, it will be a good thing, right?" The patriarch took out a map and marked the canyons according to his memory. Then he called over a patriarch of the intelligence hall to compare and mark 2 more points. "Thank you. I will go and have a look." Lady Li took the map and left. A patriarch said at once, "Family Patriarch, should we send scouts to follow her?" "Follow her for what?" Family Patriarch Chu stared at him and said, "Are you planning on snatching Emperor Yang's halberd from Lady Li?" "I can't snatch it. That patriarch rubbed his nose in embarrassment, since he don't dare to snatch it. Family Patriarch Chu said, "Then why are you sending scouts? They can easily sense it. Is offending Lady Li beneficial to our race?" That patriarch nodded slightly and added after some thought, "Why don't we send patriarchs to search the other canyons ahead of time? She will definitely search the canyons one by one. We can intercept her. The losses outweigh the gains." Family Patriarch Chu coldly waved his hand and said, "Let's not talk about finding that human. Even if we find him and take Emperor Yang's halberd, it would be equivalent to offending Lady Li. Behind Lady Li is the ancestor prestige. Furthermore, Lady Li will definitely become one of the upper echelons of the desolate race in the future. We are already at odds with the Tiango race. Is it worth it to offend the desolate race for a sacred weapon?" "All right then." The patriarch helplessly nodded. Family Patriarch Chu pondered for a moment and said, "We still need to send scouts, but don't go too close. We just need to determine where Lady Li is. If Lady Li takes down that human punk, inform me immediately. I will then ask for that human. Emperor Yang's halberd can be given to Lady Li, but the human has to be in our hands." Killing two birds with one stone. The patriarch pondered for a moment before his eyes lit up and said, "If we take down that human, we can smack the Tiango race's face. We can also make a deal with the Cauldron Emperor." Family Patriarch is brilliant. Heh. Family Patriarch Chu laughed and said proudly, "Our 12 races have fought against the Tiango race, and we have already made a name for ourselves. If we can take down that human, our 12 races will consider forming an alliance and strive to become the 34th race." Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Masters mobile version. Chapter 3084. Bang, bang, bang. In the Valley of Earth Dragons, a bulky dwarf was smashing at the rocks with his pickaxe. His eyes were wide open, but if someone could see his eyes, they would see that there was no light in his eyes, as if he were blind. Luli pretended to be mining, but he was actually cultivating. Many crystals had been broken by him. He had come to a critical moment. He had told Blood Fairy to wake him up only when a warrior came to him. Otherwise, he was not to be woken up. He was about to master the art of concealment. The art of concealment and the art of transformations were the treasures that Xiao Mo could use to roam the universe. The art of teleportation was not so important. Once his identity was exposed, he would be caught soon even if he could run away. His death last time proved this point. The art of transformations was the most important. With the help of the art of concealment, it would be extremely difficult to find Xiao Mo. The only exception would be a powerful warrior like the Reverend Ancestor who had special skills. But how many of such warriors were there in the entire universe? The Reverend Ancestor would not lower himself to help Xiao Mo unless he had offended them. Therefore, after Luli had mastered the art of concealment, the Reverend Ancestor would not come after him in person unless he had killed a senior patriarch of the desolate race or a disciple with a distinguished status like Lady Li. Of the entire universe, only a handful of powerful warriors could find Luli and capture him. Luli would not have to worry about being caught or killed. Time moved on. Luli was lucky. During this time, the valley was quiet. The warriors patrolled less. For half a month, no one came by. Luli was in the deepest part of the underground. Occasionally, there would be some warriors patrolling around, but they would go back after a routine. Rustle, rustle, rustle. 2 days later, a dwarf passed by. Hearing the sounds of mining, the dwarf came over. Blood Fairy wanted to warn him, but on second thought, the dwarf was not powerful enough to pose a threat to Luli. Therefore, she did not do so. When the dwarf got close to Luli, he saw that Luli had dug out many crystals, and many of them had been broken. The dwarf cried out at once. Luli had shut off his senses. He did not know that a dwarf was coming. Naturally, he did not answer the dwarf. The dwarf called out a few times, but seeing that Luli didn't respond, he sneakily began to pick up the crystals on the ground. After grabbing a dozen crystals, he ran away. Blood Fairy was relieved. She would not wake Luli up, and Luli would not wake up either. He was at the most critical moment. He could master it at any time. 3 days later, Luli heard a deep voice. Then, a jade talisman on his waist glowed. If Luli could see or hear it, he would immediately understand that this was a gathering order. Previously, the Tiango race, Crimson Dragon race, and other powerful beings of the 12 races had come to search for him. Every time, they had to gather all the slaves, and the speed of gathering them was a little slow. Therefore, the Yu clan gave each slave a jade talisman and told them that when the horn sounded and the jade talisman lit up, they had to gather at the canyon square within an hour. If they were late, they would be killed without mercy. Blood Fairy knew what the jade talisman meant, and she grew anxious. If Luli did not wake up in an hour, there would be warriors coming down to search for him. By then, if Luli did not fight back, he would be killed. If he did, his identity would be exposed. What to do? Blood Fairy did not know when Luli could master it. She was getting impatient. After some thoughts, she dashed away in a ray of red light. She went to another passage that was hundreds of miles away from this place and began to set up a maze in the passage. Blood Fairy did not have human emotions, but that did not mean that she was not smart. On the contrary, she was very smart. She was setting up a maze to buy Luli more time. In that case, if some warriors came down to investigate and found the maze formation, they would go and crack it at once and follow the maze formation. In this way, Luli would have more time to recover. She could wake Luli up now, but she believed he was about to master it. This was the most important moment. If he was interrupted, it might take a long time. Therefore, she decided to take the risk. The Yu race would not gather slaves for no reason. This time, they were gathering because some important people were here to search for all the slaves. The important people were the 3 Saint Kings of the wild race, and one of them was a lady of high status. A patriarch of the Yu race came in person. He did not know why Lady Li wanted to come to the valley, but he had to go with her. An empty space in the valley was filled with slaves. There must be more than 100,000 of them. All the warriors and warriors were here. The patriarch of the Yu race took a look and asked the leader, "Check and see if everyone is here." The leader waved his hand. More than a dozen junior leaders and hundreds of warriors began to check. Every jade talisman had a number on it. The slaves were standing according to the number. At the same time, Lady Li and the 2 patriarchs of the wild race began to use psychic power to check the slaves and warriors. They checked the slaves' realms, energy, expressions, and even the look in their eyes. They even checked the slightest movements. Doyen, we're still missing one. Number 93,426. An hour later, the leader came to report. Lady Li and the other patriarchs had checked 3 times, but found nothing out of the ordinary. Lady Li and the 2 patriarchs' eyes glowed when they heard the leader's words. Seal off a radius of 5,000 miles. Get all the slaves to return to their barracks and do not move. Anyone who does will be killed. With a shout, Miss Li led the 2 desolate race elders and charged into the mine. The patriarch of the Yu race quickly made arrangements. He did not mobilize the army into the mine. Lady Li and the rest were fast, so it was easy for them to check the mine. As long as they controlled the situation, the problem would be simple. Psychic power is restricted here. Lady Li and the rest were a little depressed when they rushed into the mine. The rocks were too hard, and they could not use psychic power. However, they were not in a hurry. Although the mine was crisscrossed and stretched for hundreds of thousands of miles, they were too fast. They could search very clearly. Split up and search. Lady Li waved her hand. The 2 patriarchs were hesitant, but Lady Li waved her hand and said, "What are you afraid of? My defense is so strong, and I have my ancestors' seal stone. Luli is just an emperor. How can he kill me? All right, lady, if you find him, remember to send us a message first." A desolate race elder instructed as he rushed downwards. They were indeed fast. In the time it took for a few incense sticks to burn, one of the patriarchs had found the tunnel Blood Fairy had set up. Found it. The desolate race patriarch saw a powerful maze. Clearly, the Yu race would not set up a maze here. There was only one explanation. Luli was hiding here. Bang! The jade talisman in the hands of the other patriarch and Lady Li cracked. Lady Li's eyes lit up. She said with a cold expression, "You finally found him? I really thought you could hide forever. Umph. Even if I don't die, I will make you suffer. Otherwise, how can I take this lying down? P.S. I only got home at night. I was too tired to finish writing. I will start writing chapters tomorrow. I will finish in 2 or 3 days. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version." Chapter 3085. They are here. The patriarchs of the wild race began to crack the formation. Blood Fairy was taken aback. She could tell that the powerful warriors were coming. Her misdirection could only last for an hour. If Luli did not wake up by then, she would have to wake him up by force. Even if she did, Luli would still be exposed, and he would have to run for his life. The powerful warriors would not give Luli the chance to explain. Luli had not been up for an hour, not to mention that Blood Fairy had set up a formation. He was exposed. On the other side, Miss Li and the others had already broken through the maze. They chased all the way down at a very fast speed. Soon, they had searched more than a dozen mines over there. They did not find any living beings. They were hesitant, but they did not stop. They spread out to search. They were sane emperors. Though psychic power was limited, it was a piece of cake for them to search a tunnel. They dashed to the end of tunnel. An hour later, Lady Li was close to Luli. Blood Fairy had no other choice but to wake Luli up. Buzzing, however, at that moment, Luli suddenly glowed and became transparent. But the next second, he reappeared and became transparent again. Is he about to succeed? Blood Fairy was shocked. She was hesitating. Luli was about to succeed. Previously, he told her that once he mastered the art of concealment, he could go anywhere in the world. This should be the most critical moment for Luli. Whoosh! Blood Fairy was simple-minded. As far as she was concerned, as long as Luli mastered the art of concealment, he would be unstoppable in the world. Now that he was about to succeed, it would not matter even if some powerful warriors found him. Therefore, Blood Fairy decided to buy Luli some more time. As a soul, Blood Fairy could travel underground freely. The stones here were hard. Blood Fairy was not afraid that those powerful warriors could hurt her. It rapidly traversed through the ground, and very soon it arrived at the passageway in front of Miss Li. It rapidly started to lay out a minor divine imprint, and then continued to lay out more minor divine imprints one after another. It wanted to delay for as long as possible. What? Lady Li sensed it as soon as she arrived. She glanced around, and a cold smile crept onto her face. But she slowed down because it was said that Luli was a master of divine patterns and formations. In this regard, he was no weaker than Aochi of the Red Dragon race. Break! She easily broke through the array and left. She did not send a message to the other 2 desolate race elders because she wanted to take down Luli herself to prove herself. She wanted to take back the glory that she had lost in her hands. Blood Fairy set up many divine inscriptions, but they were all small ones. She didn't have much time. If she had enough time, she could set up a powerful divine inscription that could easily stall Miss Li for a few days. Master, hurry, hurry, hurry. Blood Fairy kept yelling to herself. Lady Li was only several miles away from Luli. She was moving slowly, but given the current circumstances, it would take her the time for one incense stick to burn at most to reach Luli. Luli was still flashing around. He went invisible and appeared again and again, like a firefly in the night sky. Time moved on. Finally, Blood Fairy could not stay any longer. Lady Li was a few miles away from Luli. She used psychic power to check and found Luli. At this moment, Luli suddenly stopped flashing. His body stopped glowing, and he stopped swinging his pickaxe. He stood on the ground like a stone. A dwarf? Lady Li used psychic power to check. She sensed that it was a dwarf at the peak of the 4th tribulation. This dwarf stood there like a piece of wood. He seemed to have lost his mind. Luli, Lady Li squinted. She had made up her mind that this dwarf was Luli. She understood why the hundreds of millions of warriors and scouts, the Heavenly Hound and the Red Dragon, could not find Luli. Luli had mastered the skill of transfiguration. She used psychic power to check. There was no trace of human energy on Luli. He was at the peak of the fourth tribulation, no different from a dwarf. That being said, Lady Li still sensed something unusual. There seemed to be something strange about Luli, as if it could disappear at any time. That was because Luli was studying the skill of concealment. If it were not for the fact that he was certain, he would not have shown this. Now that she was sure that it was Luli, Lady Li was relieved. To her, a warrior of the great Emperor realm was no different from a puny insect. She never thought of sending a message to the other two founding patriarchs of the desolate race. Instead, she was secretly delighted. The entire Yin and Yang universe could not find Luli. So many warriors and scouts of the Heavenly Hound and the Red Dragon could not find him. But she did. She imagined that when she carried Luli back to the Yong'an city, all the powerful warriors would exclaim and sigh. By then, she would truly be famous in the desolate universe. Soon, she walked to Luli. But Luli didn't move. He stood there like a piece of wood. His eyes were blank. He looked like a piece of wood. Buzzing, Lady Li took out the red sword. Luli was weak, but there were many strange things about him. Therefore, Lady Li was still worried. It was better to be safe than sorry. She stood more than 1,000 feet in front of Luli and observed quietly. After the time for more than a dozen breaths, Luli still did nothing. She mocked. Do you still have to be mysterious at this stage? Luli didn't answer her either. He stood there like a stone. A moment later, Lady Li was angered. She snorted and said, Do you really want me to cut you into 18 pieces before you feel comfortable? Luli didn't move either. The red sword in Lady Li's hand glowed. A violent energy spread out. The sword flew up and pressed down on Luli. Lady Li released her horrifying energy as well. She shouted coldly, Luli, I will give you one last chance. Give me the halberd of Emperor Yong and apologize to me on your knees. Then I will spare your life. Buzzing, right at that moment, Luli finally made a move. Light came back into his eyes. His eyes were cold as ice as he looked at Lady Li at once. Lady Li? He was surprised. He had shut off his senses, so he didn't even know Lady Li was here or what she said. He was woken up by the horrifying energy of the red sword. He took a look and sent a message at once. Blood Fairy, what the heck are you doing? Why didn't you wake me up earlier? Blood Fairy explained. Luli sighed to himself. After all, Blood Fairy was not a human being. She could not understand. It was Luli's fault for not giving her a clear explanation. He had mastered the art of concealment. It was good that Blood Fairy was trying to buy him more time. If he didn't, he would have to spend a long time in the future. But the price he had to pay was that Lady Li was standing right in front of him. He had mastered the art of concealment and skill of transference. But he had been targeted by the enemy. Not even Xiao Mo could survive if he was targeted, let alone Luli. Luli hadn't even mastered the Swift yet. Lady Li was of high status. She must not be the only one nearby. Then, there must be one or two founding members nearby. Therefore, it was unlikely that Luli could get away. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3086. Luli was not in the mood to complain about Blood Fairy. Many thoughts flashed across his mind, but he kept a straight face. He cupped his fists and said, Greetings, Lady Li. Lady Li, you are very resourceful. I didn't expect you to find me. Lady Li didn't make a move right away, so Luli was not in a hurry to risk his life. Luli wanted to be polite and sound her out. Lady Li sneered. Don't flatter me. That won't work. Give me the halberd of Emperor Yong and apologize to me on your knees. Then I will spare your life. Or else halberd of Emperor Yong? Luli understood now. She must be here for the halberd. He thought about it and said, I can understand you giving me the halberd of Emperor Yong. But why do you have to kowtow and apologize? I don't remember offending you, Lady Li. Lady Li snorted. I was about to take the halberd of Emperor Yong. I don't know what you did, but you took it away. You have humiliated me. Shouldn't you apologize? Oh, Luli was surprised. Then he understood. When he asked the tomb watcher to send the halberd of Emperor Yong over, Lady Li almost got it. No wonder she was so angry. Give me the halberd of Emperor Yong? Luli was hesitating. Lady Li would let him go if he gave her the halberd of Emperor Yong. He could run away as fast as he could. He might have a chance to escape by using stealth skill. But would the patriarchs of the wild race be willing to let Lady Li go? How many Saint Emperors were in the valley? Luli asked after some thoughts. Lady Li, I have a question. Apart from you, how many more Saint Emperors are here? What? Are you scared? Lady Li laughed. 2 from the wild race and 1 from the U race. Don't even think about running away. You won't be able to escape. 4 Saint Emperors. Luli grew solemn. Even if he gave Lady Li the halberd of Emperor Yong, would the other 3 Saint Emperors let him go? The chances were slim. Cut the crap. Miss Li's aura surged, and the small red sword in the air also flashed, as if it could turn into a giant dragon at any time. Luli took a few deep breaths and lowered his head. He only thought for the time for a dozen breaths before he made up his mind. He looked up and said, Lady Li, I apologize to you, and I will give you the halberd of Emperor Yong. All I ask is that you spare my life. In the future, I will stay away from you as well. With that said, Luli bowed and spat out his interspatial ring. He took out the halberd of Emperor Yong and held it with both hands. He was extremely humble. Even though Luli didn't kneel, Lady Li was satisfied with his attitude. Lady Li loathed Luli, but she had no quarrel with him. What mattered most was the words of Ancestor Fu. Therefore, the anger in Lady Li's heart was disappearing bit by bit. Naturally, the killing intent was gone as well. Buzz, she retracted her red flying sword and held it in her hand. It was just an overlord-ranked martial artist. She didn't care about it at all. She nodded slightly and said, Give me the Yong Emperor halberd. Shio. Luli threw the halberd of Emperor Yong to her. A glint of joy appeared in Lady Li's eyes. She caught it with one hand and looked at it happily. Whoosh! Right at that moment, Luli's eyes glowed. 2 rays of white light flew out and reached Lady Li's head. Before she could react, the rays of white light had pierced into her soul. Lady Li's soul was protected by a 9th rank enchanted soul, and she had other treasures. But she didn't care much about Luli, so she didn't use them. As the strong soul energy entered her body, Lady Li came back to her senses. This soul is so strong. Lady Li felt she was in a stormy sea. She thought her soul was strong, but she felt she was a lone boat in the sea. Her soul was trapped and she was in darkness. Whoosh! Luli dashed over. He took the halberd of Emperor Yong in his hand and took the red sword from Lady Li's hand as well. Then, he took out the sacred mountain and forced Lady Li in. He threw her into the pond. Blood Fairy, do you have a way to build an entrapment formation with the runes of the sacred mountain to trap him in? Luli asked. Blood Fairy thought about it and said, I will try. After all, he is a Saint Emperor. It will be difficult for me to build the runes on my own. If I can borrow the power of the sacred mountain, I think I can. I have to think about it. Okay. Luli nodded and added, I can only trap her soul for 3 days at most. You must find a way to trap her in 3 days. Understood. Blood Fairy said nothing. Luli put away the sacred mountain. He took some pellets and dashed toward the nearby area. He didn't move fast. He used the trace of Tao to sense the surroundings. He must find a safe place to hide as soon as possible. He was afraid that the weakness of his soul would come soon. That was right. He had used the purple divine liquid. If he hadn't used the purple divine liquid, he wouldn't have been able to use the spirit array technique to trap Miss Li. Lady Li had just reached the Saint Emperor realm. Her soul was not strong. Luli's formations could already affect Saint Emperors and even Saint Ancestors. With the help of the purple divine liquid, his soul was unbelievably strong. It was not surprising that he could trap Lady Li with formations. This time, Luli was decisive. If he could not capture Lady Li, he could lose his life. He might lose his life if he did, but at least he would have a better chance. More importantly, he had a hostage. When Lady Li went out, there were 2 Saint Emperors with her at all times. Lady Li must be of high status. Besides, Lady Li had reached the Saint Emperor realm at such a young age. Needless to say, her status must be high. Therefore, Luli made his move. With a hostage, at least, he would have a better chance of survival. He didn't care about the wild race. He would kill anyone that wanted to kill him, even if it was God himself. He didn't run away as fast as he could. Even though he could go invisible with the stealth skill, the speed was slow. Since he had just mastered it, he could not act rashly. He planned to leave the valley slowly. Someone is here. He moved for dozens of miles. He sensed some movement in the air. He went to a corner and vanished into thin air. Whoosh! A dark shadow dashed by. Some psychic power scanned Luli as well. But that psychic power did not stop. That dark shadow vanished into the distance as well. The stealth skill is impressive. Luli was overjoyed. He flew up at once. At the same time, he turned invisible and tried to move under the stealth skill. He slowed down, but he was still invisible. Once he stopped, he would disappear completely. Just like that, he'd sneak his way up. Along the way, he ran into another patriarch of the wild race. He hid in a corner and went on after the patriarch left. After an hour, he arrived at the exit of a mine. There were not many warriors outside. Luli sensed for a while. He didn't stop and sneaked out of the valley. Now that he had captured Lady Li, he believed that many powerful warriors would come soon. Therefore, the Earth Dragon Valley would become dangerous. He must leave as soon as possible. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.